Yo, what's good, fam? What's going on, y'all? It's time. They finna come out with some heat. I hope. Hope we're about to get some good news. We're about to make some money. Please refresh your page if the video does not start automatically. Let's see. Alright, let's do this. This video is muted. Please click right here to unmute. How everybody doing today, man? Yeah, it's actually my first live stream. First live stream ever on this channel, man. Oh yeah. Trying to get to that 1 cent today. Yo, if they say the right thing at this event, easy. Yeah, the development team is working on the Pikachu. I wanted to take a peek at you watching this event. Bro, bro, I don't know what's about to happen. I have never watched nothing like this, so I don't even know what to expect. But hopefully something exciting go on, man. Love your work. I definitely appreciate it. I appreciate it, Far. Sad to see the prices going up. I know, right? And I hate the fact that these exchanges take like 10 days to take money from my bank account. Yo, I can go get I can get a burger at freaking McDonald's and they can take that shit off my card instantly. Yet when I'm trying to transfer funds, it's a whole 10-day process. Bro, they need to ask McDonald's how they do it, man. Like, what is wrong with these exchanges out here? If I say you can take my money, just take my money. Like, what are we waiting for? These exchanges, man. The exchanges don't want us to be great out here, man. Hold on, let's see. Refresh. What's up? Oh, they said they're running a few minutes late. We're running a few minutes behind. Oh, now they running behind. That's what we doing out here, buddy. Okay. All right. Abdullah. What's good? I will show you a live stream on my Twitter. I appreciate it, for. You transfer through Cash App. Is that instant? I might have to try Cash App. Everybody been telling me they do that. I know one of my friends do too. Seeing 0.7 from 0.5 is bittersweet. I know. I'm still waiting on funds to transfer. I didn't want it to go up that fast, man. I am on day like 6 or 7. I am on day 6 or 7. I transferred funds last week and they still have not cleared, bro. Said they behind because we gonna crash everything. I know, man. It take them a while to get like what, over 700 Pokemon set up and lined up. Like, it take them a while to get those lined up, man. Yo, Xaro, how you doing, homie? Cash App is the way. I use Coinbase Pro. I actually got Coinbase Pro. I ain't never really get into using Coinbase as much because when I first started my crypto journey, I really did not understand what was going on. So Coinbase looked confusing to me. Now I use so many different exchanges, I understand it. But yeah, when I first started, Coinbase looked so confusing, and then I just saw Voyager. Voyager was so simple to use and user friendly. Yeah, it was dope. I just hit my goal of 3.4 million. Omi, love your work. Keep it up. Yo, congratulations, my guy. Yo, when this hit $1, oh man. My man's got that life-changing
Yo,
money.
I just hit my goal of $4 million. OMI. Love your work. Keep it up.
Bro, I forgot that was on. That scared the crap out of me. Like, I forgot that was on. Uh-oh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steph Wissink, Senior Research Analyst and Managing Director on the Consumer Research Team at Jefferies. Thank you very much for joining us today for this very exciting afternoon of NFTs and digital collectibles. The spirit of this day is really about education and learning. And you will see throughout the course of the agenda today that we have built panels and speakers to really help inform all of us on what is this new trend that we're calling digital collectibles. To kick us off today, we're going to start with a micro keynote from Ryan Brown, who is a tech reporter from CNBC and who has actually crafted a really helpful video. So we're going to start with that. As you scroll down the list of the agenda today, you're going to notice that we are partnering with Licensing International for this event today. Licensing International is the leading trade organization of the licensing industry. So we are very, very thankful to have the team from Licensing International to help us moderate some of our panels. And also they were very helpful in recruiting some of our panelists and speakers today. So let's kick it off. Ryan, I'm going to run the video, so roll tape, and then we'll come back and have a really brief conversation. So here we go.
They got a whole video? Okay. And I'm reading the comments.
Sell out huge sums of money on unique items such as paintings, baseball cards and vintage cars. But now, collectible items have moved into the digital space in the form of NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. So what exactly are NFTs, and why are they suddenly being sold for millions? NFTs, known as Nifties by insiders, are a type of digital asset. Ownership of these tokens is recorded on a blockchain, a digital ledger using similar technology to the networks that underpin Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But unlike currencies, where every token is of equal value and could be swapped for any other, NFTs have unique qualities which stop them from being interchangeable or fungible. You can think of them like the crypto alternative to rare Pokemon or baseball cards.
They starting already.
In the traditional art market, NFTs are often sold at auction, with prospective buyers bidding against each other until a price is reached. The rise of the internet meant that images, videos and songs could be reproduced and distributed infinitely online, often without any royalties being paid to their creators. And even tech giants such as YouTube and Spotify have faced criticism for not compensating artists sufficiently for their work. Proponents of NFTs say they address this problem by allowing ownership to be recorded on the blockchain, preventing unlimited reproduction or piracy, and enabling creators to reap the financial rewards. Rock band Kings of Leon sold NFTs over 2 weeks in March 2021, which gave buyers access to a deluxe form of their album for $50, whilst also auctioning off an even more exclusive version limited to just 18 copies. In the same month, the NFT of Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey's first tweet sold for nearly $3 million to Sina Estavi, a Malaysia-based crypto entrepreneur. Meanwhile, art dealers are also getting in on the action, with auction house Christie's running an auction for a virtual work from the artist Beeple, which eventually sold for nearly $70 million. But NFTs aren't a totally new phenomenon. CryptoKitties, a virtual pet game based on the blockchain Ethereum, was so popular in 2017 that they clogged up the network of the cryptocurrency Ether. To date, these colourful online cats have generated sales of over $40 million.
I saw those before.
Why are we hearing so
I didn't know what it was at the time.
The coronavirus pandemic played a big role in the NFT boom. In 2020, the total value of NFT transactions quadrupled to $250 million, and the market looks set to grow further in 2021. That's in no small part because of stay-at-home restrictions that resulted in most people spending a lot more time on the internet, and many having spare cash on hand as in-person spending opportunities were limited. It's a trend with parallels in the rise of retail traders betting on GameStop and other stocks promoted on the Reddit board Wall Street Bets. The craze also arrives at a time when Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have surged in value, with Bitcoin briefly reaching a record high price of over $60,000 in March 2021. Many NFTs are priced in Ether, the digital token of the Ethereum
Bitcoin
blockchain.
going up.
That currency hovered around $2,000 in February 2021, before losing nearly a third of its value in a matter of days, reminding investors of cryptocurrency's wild volatility. Many investors are buying NFTs as a speculative investment, hoping to flip them at a much higher price than they originally paid. But a growing number of people are also holding NFTs long-term as collectibles. Major brands including the NBA and Formula One have launched projects centered around NFTs which can be collected or traded. And people are also finding other uses for NFTs such as virtual real estate and video games. Nevertheless, the NFT space has been met with skepticism from some creators and investors. Critics view it as another crypto fad that will eventually drift into irrelevance.
Everybody thinks it's a scam.
About the carbon emissions needed to generate these tokens. But expect to hear more about NFTs so long as collectors are willing to buy them. Thank you so much for watching. Would you buy an NFT? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.
What was this? He just wanted to show people his video.
Be
great, my man.
Fantastic. So I have a question for you, which is first, what prompted this deep dive into this cryptocurrency NFT craze for you?
That's a good question, Steph. Thanks for having me on as well. Really, really good to be here. I think it was just the huge. I mean, let's be honest. NFTs, the real interest that generated was the amount of money that was just flowing into them, right? I mean, I think in the first quarter now we've seen $2 billion of sales in the NFT market, which is just absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to know where Ecomi is going to come on, yeah.
We like to follow the money at CNBC, obviously, and that's what our investors, our audience who are often investors.
So an hour and 30. That's when David Yu is coming. An hour and 30.
Going on in markets and tech, of course. So I think that was the big thing
Dan,
for us.
He's going to be on at 1:30.
Well, also there is definitely
2 hours, like 2 3,
which is quite interesting. Which is all of these artists and musicians and everyone else who's been trapped indoors. Unfortunately for the last 12 to 13 months. Because of the pandemic, this is generating another way for them to make money from their work. So there's clearly a genuine use case.
Speak about Omi.
Exploited here. So
yeah, they're not speaking about Omi right now. I don't know what they're talking about. I just wanted to start.
About this from an investigative perspective.
I want to see what they're talking about.
Things that really surprised you that you learned.
Totally. So I think definitely the amount of money that was going into it was obviously one thing.
This is the summit. This is
the fact that so much money is going into it, but also
this is the beginning. It just started.
For one, Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies that have just completely surged in value over the past year. Ether, which is often used to.
Oh, what am I watching that?
Cryptocurrencies, a lot of the tokens are based on the Ethereum network. So
it's the website it's on right now. Right
hit a record high, above 2,400, I think.
It's called Meet Max. You had to sign up, make an account, and then they sent you
factored into that sort of part of the puzzle.
So you had to sign up, make an account, and they sent you some information. It was a little process, but if you signed up and registered, they sent you a link and then a password and stuff.
And we're also seeing, kind of the story around crypto, how institutional investors are increasingly trying to figure out ways of getting involved there. And off the back of that, the huge surge in value for those cryptocurrencies, you then had, all of those investors who have benefited thinking, okay, where do I park my cash now? And clearly NFTs was apparently one of them. Another thing that surprised me about NFTs.
I'm going to stream the entire event. Honestly, I wanted to jump in from the beginning to see what they were talking about.
It's not
and I'm probably going to stop watching after David Yu and after the Ecomi people get off, I'm done watching it. So let me see, how long does it go after they get off? But I'm only really here to hear what they got to say.
Clogged up the Ethereum blockchain, which was completely wild. And to think that, the word NFT...
Yeah, I don't care about none of that.
...sort of come into the mainstream.
Yeah, I'm going to stop watching after Dan gets off.
That was something that kind of surprised me, because I would have assumed, having suddenly saw all these headlines around NFTs, that they just came out of absolutely nowhere, but that was not the case at all. They've been around for quite a long time.
Hold down the fort for us, brother. I'll be back in an hour for the real juice.
So you are a journalist.
Love the content. Omi to the rocket.
We're going to have a chance to listen to a lot of
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the donations. Thank you all so much. It's going straight on Ecomi. I'm going to buy me some Omi with this.
Collectibles ecosystem. If you could ask one question of companies engaged in this space, what would you ask?
I think I would ask them, why are you getting involved in NFTs, right? Because I've as a journalist, we get lots of pictures in our inbox on daily, and ever since I did that video, I can tell you I've been absolutely inundated with pictures from companies who are doing some NFT or other. Either they're, advising, artists, musicians, and clients about how they can kind of mint their own NFTs and do their own auctions.
Link, please.
There are also lots of companies. We had.
I don't know the link. Well, I can't send it easily. The link is meetmax.com/webcast.
Gateway from Gemini.
It's weird.
The thing I would ask them,
try going to meetmax.com
right now. Is it because you've suddenly seen all these sales skyrocket? And I would urge some caution, because we're now starting to see some froth in the market, and I think it's worth calling out, right? Because You know, we've seen Bitcoin escalate to huge prices before, and then that massive crypto bubble that burst in 2018. So it's something to be cautious about. But yeah, I definitely want to know why all these companies are now getting involved.
You ain't received the email?
As you think about the evolution of technology, just because you've been writing about it for so many years and kind of tracking along what's happening, how would you
got a million
share
yet?
with us
Almost.
from an educational perspective, you know, how this
I'm
does
waiting for my
back
funds to
into
transfer, man.
basic frameworks like
I've been waiting for like a
exchanges
week.
and this notion of fandom and the
I'ma show
idea
y'all.
of objects having value as long as you can find someone to pay a value for them.
Yes.
How does the NFT and digital collectibles industry
It
connect
won't transfer
to other
though.
technology?
Look, it's already
areas?
in already in
Yeah,
USDT.
We've long had ways of you know, auctioning stuff, buying stuff,
But it won't transfer, like, they-
marketplaces, eBay. Back in the
tweaking with
day,
me, man.
You know, and they're still going. But these
It's
are
just
kind
been
of
sitting here.
centralized platforms, right? That you know, that you can use to, you know, put anything on there, and hopefully you'll find somebody who will buy it, take that off your hands. But I think the big trend around NFTs that ties into another theme in tech is just the, you know, the waning of value that's going to the artists. You know, Spotify now making a lot of announcements about how they're kind of trying to address musicians and how they're being compensated. But that's a big question for these big centralized tech platforms, right? Is how do you compensate all these creators fairly? You've got YouTube, another platform that is also facing questions about how it can keep its creators happy, given that ad revenue is you know, it's not the greatest for some of those creators unless you're really, you know, one of the biggest top creators. Now you're seeing new platforms like TikTok coming through and trying to also figure out how to, you know, let creators monetize on their platforms. So I think that's the biggest thing from, you know, traditional tech trends that ties into NFTs here right now. The difference about NFTs is it's kind of
Make
roots in
Cavell
this,
a millionaire
you know,
fund.
anarchic sort of crypto.
Oh, thanks for the
Sort of
donation.
trying to, you know,
Cronus.
decentralize and not be kind of you know, pinned down by any central authority. You know, these people they're about the original roots of the internet, right? You know,
XLM.
freedom of you know, being able to create your own art and be able to profit from it without.
I looked
any
at the
kind of
Premier League when I saw his tweet. It looks interesting.
Yeah,
But
you
he
mentioned
just be
something in your
saying
video,
something
and just said it
anytime the
again,
hype
it really
build up, I feel
resonated
like.
with me, this notion that this is a very organized.
I don't know if he a troll or
marketplace.
what.
But there is a digital
Our turn.
trace.
If you
for all
just
assets
want to
that
see
are tied to
Ecomi,
these non-fungible tokens.
come
And so,
back and
as you think about that, you know, the net benefit to the artist community, and as you think about
for
the
my time,
exchange
it's
model,
an hour. It's about an
You
hour,
mentioned
an
that
hour
it
and 15.
felt
Come
very
back in an hour.
subculture.
Come back in an hour if you
maybe
want to
even
just see
just
the
6 to 12 months ago. Now it
Ecomi
feels
part.
a bit more mainstream.
Come back in an hour.
How do you expect this to evolve? Do you expect there to be fits and starts, or do you think that this overall ecosystem can evolve in a pretty organized way, just as organized as the underlying technology that ties to the token itself?
They took 3 weeks.
It'll be interesting
Oh
to
no,
sort of
bro.
notice how it does.
Did you hit up support?
Out, right?
Bro,
Because
I've
you've got
already
so
hit up
many
support.
different
I'm on their
exchanges
ass.
out
Like,
there, and they're, you know, tapping venture capital markets, trying to raise more funds just to address the sudden surge of interest that their own platforms are seeing. So that's something to watch out for, especially, you know, because you've got so many right now. I mean, you've got OpenSea, you've got Rarible.
dude, not an hour, 15
TNT
minutes.
Gateway.
No,
All
this
these
is my
guys,
time. Like,
Dapper Labs
so
just raised a massive round of quite pricey
it's 11 o'clock right
valuation,
now
but,
for me.
That's something to watch
And
out
it's
for,
12,
because you've got
like,
so
they're
many
gonna come on at
disparate
12:30 my
platforms out
time.
there, right? So how do you
So,
tie that all together?
That's
not
an hour away from
entirely
me.
Sure, I think it's down to, you know, those investors to sort of figure out, what do I want to, you know, get out of the NFT gold rush. You know, am I a basketball fan? Well, I guess I'll go to NBA Top Shot and you know, trade some of these, you know, moments that they're doing, these highlights of big NBA games. Or if I'm into kind of these strange digital avatars that on CryptoPunks, and I guess I'll go over to that platform and you know, see if I can get any sort of collector's items from that. It's all about, like you said earlier, it's all about fandom. It's all about belief.
One thing I've learned since learning more about finance and diving in and everything, it's more than enough money to go around.
The thing about ownership, just to touch on
more than enough money to go around.
That is a really big issue.
Everybody out here securing their bags of Omi. We can all go up.
The things that they are buying represent true ownership of these works of art, of these, trading cards, because I mean that's a huge issue, because you want to be able to prove that.
Selling 100K at 15 cents, that's a good strategy. It's good to have a strategy. Knowing what's realistic for you
is the kind of unique digital signature that comes with these NFTs. At the same time, anybody can view these artworks, right? It's a JPEG file. The thing that Beeple paid all those millions. Beeple sold for all those millions was a JPEG file. But it just comes with the sort of belief that you were owning that particular thing. It's like an artist's signature almost. So that's a really big issue that a lot of these companies, a lot of the investors are going to have to figure out, whether they can quite trust. The sort of underlying.
Yeah, honestly, the Omi community is the best community, honestly.
Yeah, you
by
raise
far.
a really interesting point, because
and it's not even like I feel like every community say that, but it's like
is pretty high, and so
maybe
this is one way
fun.
to solve for
it's
that.
Fun. It's a serious investment.
In and of itself has an embedded counterfeit measure that
real
can't
foundation.
Be
it's like it's so much value in Omi.
To your point, what are you ultimately buying?
It's not just a pump and dump type of thing, man. It's like
millions and millions of dollars. I've got a lot of JPEG files on my desktop that I would be glad to sell for millions of dollars each.
You and me both.
Yes. But one thing you mentioned too, I want to just tug on this thread a little bit around fandom, because as I've been having conversations internally and with investors about, how this industry might look in 10 years, there are some parallels to Wall Street. We certainly have many exchanges around the world. You even have multiple exchanges in some countries like the US with various, different market platforms. We have currency where we have to exchange
NBA
euros
Top
for dollars
overrated.
to participate
NBA
in different
Top
markets.
Shot.
So
it's good. I think it's good for what it's good for. It is a bubble though.
It certainly
because people think just grabbing any NFT, you're going to be able to sell it and it's going to be valuable. But
is there something
somebody going to buy a bench warmer and that ain't going to sell for nothing, and they're going to be real mad.
Modern technology and the fact that they can be global from really day one, that they're designed to be global, and we do know that fandom is incredibly global. So what are your thoughts on kind of the global factor?
I think it's a big deal, and it ties back to crypto generally, right? Crypto is a global phenomenon. You can buy Bitcoin anywhere.
The Veve Code wallet when it releases.
Theoretically,
I've been waiting for Veve's
in the world. If you've got a very high powered
to get Veve's wallet,
which I don't personally own, but if you do, you can
I've been
be involved in that network. You can participate.
I'm getting everything. I'm supporting. Like, this is my favorite company. I'm going to support them like crazy. This is my number one investment. I'm going to make this like the biggest chunk of my portfolio
in the world. Obviously,
right now my biggest portfolio.
Own a bit. A sizable amount of cash.
It's the stock market. My stock market portfolio is probably one of my biggest.
Rare work of digital art, and I'm proud of it. But also,
because my crypto portfolio, the only money in that portfolio is the money I'm waiting to clear so it can send to Bitforex.
Piece of work that they've made, or something that's kind of tied to some music like Kings of Leon did. Anybody in the world can supposedly do that now, but you're sort of right to also say marketplaces aren't new.
Are you looking at Limpo? No, I haven't. I don't look into I don't look into too many unless I see y'all recommend them. I will check out anything though. But nah, I don't really look into much. I looked into that Safe Moon stuff, like all these pump and dump coins. I don't really get into those. I don't get into those.
Sort of, been the consequence of Bitcoin.
If it's some more projects out here like Ecomi, like what's that called? Network is going to be fire. Earth 2 looks fire.
New structure for an internet, kind of Web 3.0 that a lot of people are talking about. Where you can
their number one investment is Ethereum. Ethereum's about to go crazy. They say they got a price target of about 25,000. I got some good. That'll give me some good gains. I got some Ethereum.
Kind of develops, and that is something that is, I would say, start.
What's this interview? This is the beginning of the meeting. Ecomi comes on in about an hour.
It's that underlying technology that's at play there. So that'd be interesting to see how that evolves as well. Ethereum's going through its own network upgrade to be much more faster and more efficient.
If you have 1 million stake, you get 5 minutes early access to ultra rares.
Maybe they could be
that would be fire. That would be fire.
That's great. We just have time for
Master
one
Collector
more.
program is going to be huge.
You reflecting on your process to come to this video and the work that you've been writing about.
You put your student loan in Omi. Listen,
so I want you to help us kind of.
I can't even be mad at you. I spent my student loans like when I was in college.
Nifty
I didn't learn a thing in college. I was a self-taught programmer. Started when I was 7. I started programming at 7, and I was already
fungible token.
A good programmer in my teens. So
which
I literally went to college just to please my family, and I used all my money going on dates, going out with females. Like I blew all my college money and got $20,000 in debt. Like about $20,000 in debt, and didn't learn a damn thing. So you putting it in Omi, way better life decisions than I made. So
think about blockchain.
Hey.
Is, a ledger, like an accounting ledger.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Transactions, and they're each sort of, contained in these blocks, right? And every single block is supposed to ensure, that the network is secure. So it's basically, I find it harder to explain every time I try to explain it, but basically the whole point of the blockchain is this distributed.
I'm actually holding Doge. Like the reason that Doge is going to be valuable is because Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a visionary. He's a genius, and he sees things that other people can't see. If he sees value in Doge and he wants it to be great, I believe that he's going to make it great eventually. So I believe in him. That's why I'm holding Doge more than anything. If it was just Doge by itself, I would not be in it whatsoever.
Fraud. So that's a big. Security is a big thing about the blockchain, but I think
you sold your house.
The simplest explanation is this kind
to
of
put in Omi.
Ledger of all the Bitcoin.
Hey, just sleep in your Omi wallet, man. That's all you need.
Then the last thing I want to unpack a little bit definitionally is we are talking about the digital modalities now.
I think Omi would
in the
introduce
physical
staking.
world,
I mean, I don't see why not. I think I actually read in the white papers they were planning it. I'm not sure though. I haven't read the white papers
in a while. It might be a piece of art.
I've been meaning to, but it's always some other news, something interesting going on that I end up getting sidetracked talking about that stuff more so than reading the white papers like I want to. I really want to deep dive
across a whole host of different consumer products, classes, and technologies. As you kind of think about just the infinite possibilities, and you mentioned
just say you lost it in a boating accident.
Creating digital copies of historically physical things is one avenue, but also creating digital copies for the purpose of them being digital from the beginning. So talk a little bit about how you kind of organize that in your head, and what did you learn from your investigative work around just
that's the thing, like Earth 2
levels of possibilities.
I've been hearing about how Earth 2 is going to be working with Omi and stuff like that. I don't know how collaborations would work. I think these projects have spent a bunch of time building their projects.
I can't remember which particular example.
Independent. Like I don't know if they can just work together. Like, hey, you want to do a partnership? Yeah, let's just. We've been working on this for one way for 3 years. Now let's just mix them up. We've been doing 2 different things for 3 years. Let's bring them together. It's like I don't think it works like that. I think you gotta plan for that before it's even done. So I don't know.
Supposed to be scarce. Now you could sort of suggest, or maybe this kind of defeats the object of that.
Ethereum all-time highs.
See there being
is it hitting it? It's on track.
Seen that
let me see. Ethereum is about to go crazy, man. Let me see Ethereum. Oh yeah, we had 2.6.
Some ownership of that.
2.6, baby.
For, I think how the crypto economy sort of thinks
up 11%.
Ways for we've been talking.
Doge is still up 80%.
Quite a lot getting in,
Luna, people been sleeping on Luna. Don't sleep on Luna.
Here as well, those
Luna was holding my portfolio up when everything else was looking bad.
Kind of getting on the action there. So I think those tokens that represent ownership of things, they could play a role.
Take a look into the
kind of dividing these NFTs
Vancat token.
Fractional.
I'm gonna have to write these down.
That you could also,
y'all telling me, y'all putting me onto a lot of tokens. I'm gonna have to write these down.
The question I was getting a bit sort of lost there for a minute, but I
it does. That's very helpful.
Make a video going over the white papers.
And I just appreciate your voice.
It's so
in
many.
all of
It's
this
like
because you've helped
100
organize
plus
a lot
pages
of
or
complex
something.
things for all of us.
I'll probably go over
And
like
kudos,
some of the
so
most
helpful.
interesting stuff. Probably.
And
I'll
I
probably
also
do
just
that.
want to recognize that I don't know that we're going to have anybody throughout the course of the day today that's really going to talk about the artists. So I want to just say thank you for that, because coming back to really thinking about where a lot of this begins is with the independent creator, the super fan that is creating something new and exciting for their fan communities to really embrace and love.
David
so,
gonna talk about
thank you for
David
that.
gonna talk about everything.
Reminder.
What they talking
We're going to
about.
leave it there. I'm going to kick this over now to our first panel of the day. And my colleague, Maura Reagan from International Licensing, the Licensing International, is going to lead that panel. So we are going to close out here, Ryan. Thank you again.
Crypto.
And over to Maura. Thanks, everybody.
I wish I was off. Hey, poor man, what's good, homie? That's it. The session has concluded. Please check back shortly. What? I just watched them talk about nothing, and they gonna say it's concluded. What are we talking about? For a replay? The heck was that? Oh, we at 12:30. Okay, so we at the next one. Okay. $11:30. This one right here. Okay, join. Is this a different panel or is this the same one? Let me see. Let me find out if this is the same link. Oh, this is the keynote? Okay, this panel 1. Please refresh your page if video does not start. Okay, we got, I guess this is it. We waiting. They ain't say nothing interesting that whole time. Yo, sweet chow. I appreciate it, homie. It's just always something going on that keep me excited. It's hard for me to sleep when I'm excited. And I'm always excited in this community. Oh, you average down? Oh, you got it at all-time high. It's cool. I think I got a big bulk of it around the 9s as well. I haven't got to average down too well myself either. Like, I might be around the 7s. Cause like I've been waiting for this freaking money to clear. I need to just use like Cash App or something. But I'm gonna have to contact Voyager either way. Tell them to stop the payment and just send it back or something. I don't know. It just take forever through Voyager, man. Just take forever. When I very first started investing, it didn't take that long. But to be fair, I did take money out of like Dogecoin and stuff. I took money that was already there and settled, and I sent that over. I never tried just putting in a large bulk of money, letting it settle, and then sending it. Like, I never tried that. So they're running a few minutes behind. Why are they running behind? What are they doing? All they doing is a live stream. Do you think Ecomi will announce anything today? I don't know. You never know. It's a reason that they keep tweeting and telling the community to come through. They've been tweeting and telling the community to...
Hi, everyone. I'm Maura Reagan, President of Licensing International, the trade association for the global brand licensing industry. And I am delighted that we've had the opportunity to partner with Steph Wissink and her colleagues at Jefferies, the investment house, on this timely and
what do you
exciting
expect? I don't even know what to
NFTs.
expect, man. Hold on, let me get out of the way.
Tuned in for the micro keynote earlier that kind of kicked it off with some ground rules and things like that. But this is really just the start of the conversation. Our goal for today is to really raise some questions, some things that you should be thinking about, and provide some of the context and the vernacular of this exciting new category, particularly for the business of those of us in the licensing community.
Okay.
Just some tidbits of housekeeping just to step in with. If you would, please submit your questions as they come up. There will be a 1 to 2 minute
How much Omi
timer
tokens
so
do
we
I
don't
have?
miss anything. So do
Less than $1 million. I'm trying to get up to $1 million.
put
I've been
them
waiting
in
on my
chat
funds to clear for like
when we
a week
when we
plus,
can,
like 2 weeks
absolutely.
now.
Also,
So,
I think one of the things that I did want to mention, which I found really helpful, was there is a podcast.
I've been trying to get in. I can't get my funds in. Like, I literally have the money just sitting in my Voyager waiting.
And helped to introduce to me some of the concepts that I was really struggling with. And for those of you in our toy industry who are out there, and I know they're out there, I think you'll really enjoy the where the term and where his name Beeple came from. So that's just a little bonus item for all of you in the toy industry, which I thought was kind of fun.
It's just waiting. It's waiting to be transferred, but they won't let me transfer.
After this. But without further ado, what I'd love to do is we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves and each of our esteemed panelists who all have a real stake in this.
Who are we watching right now?
Not just,
let me see, who are these
from
people?
From one side of the equation, but really from all sides, a real 360 perspective. And so we'll kick it off starting, Pam, if you could introduce yourself, Pam Deese.
This is
Thanks, Maura. I'm
interpretation
Pam
of NFTs and digital rights.
Aaron Fox in our Washington,
Trevor
D.C.
George.
office. I have been in the licensing business, representing licensors and licensees.
I guess these some,
really long
I don't know
time.
who they are.
And that's
these
what my practice focuses on, is intellectual property and licensing.
Terrific. Great. So shall we go then to Trevor, if you want to jump in, Trevor George?
Hey everyone, Trevor, co-CEO and co-founder of Recur. We build white labeled brand experiences in the NFT space for licensed IP, and came from Trevco, which is a top 150 global licensee focused on direct-to-consumer manufacturing of licensed consumer products.
Terrific. Josh, jump in.
Sure. Welcome, everyone. Josh Goodstead, EVP of Licensing, Think 450, which is the innovation engine of the National Basketball Players Association, and we represent group licensing rights for active NBA
We can't
players.
use that in America,
Back
man.
in 2018,
I tried to get on that.
Evaluating the power of blockchain and NFTs, and after doing a deep dive and
Amid, what's
of
up?
Opportunities, we decided to
What's the YouTube channel?
Licensing rights.
This isn't on YouTube. This is a different website.
Enable them to develop and ultimately have a very successful NFT launch called NBA Top Shot.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And Susan.
Good afternoon, Susan Cornfield. I'm also an intellectual property attorney representing licensors and licensees for over 35 years. I'm talking to you from Ann Arbor, Michigan, go blue. And today we're going to talk about some of the issues, or I'm going to talk about in particular some of the issues that owners of platforms have to be thinking about when they're going to be licensing content from brand owners.
Terrific. Thank you. So today's session is titled NFTs and Digital Collectibles, Interpretation of NFTs and Digital Rights. So this is really laying the groundwork, sort of like a 101, if you will. And I've asked Susan if she would just pull up some slides just to really familiarize all of us, certainly myself, again, with the language and definition so that we all are
worth watching.
And using the same term.
If you only want to see Ecomi, come back in an hour, man. We're just watching some random stuff right now. But Ecomi's going to be on in 1 hour.
And I'm sure that somebody will tell me if they're unable to see these slides.
Nope, we're good.
Hang on one second. I think I need to change my display settings. There we go. All right. So I have sent these slides on to Maura, so if anyone needs a copy, you can email her. I'm not really prepared to get 1,200 emails.
Intellectual issues.
So we're going to try and turn you into IP lawyers in just a few minutes. What I want you to know is, for the most part, platforms are going to be thinking about trademark, copyright, and rights of publicity. So here's a couple of bullet points that remind us that when we think trademark, we think brand, right? Logos and slogans, characters. With copyright, we think content, so music, text, graphic design, video, etc. And for rights of publicity, we think about famous people, their names, their faces, their voices, how they walk. And sometimes rights of publicity also apply to everyday people. So when lawyers are working with clients such as you, here's what we have to think about. Is the content that you want to license something that triggers a trademark question, copyright, rights of publicity? We think about what kind of rights do you as a platform want to grant your purchasers? Because sometimes, Josh may speak to this later, sometimes licensors do not want the users to have complete freedom to use that digital content in a game or a story or certain online situations. So we think about what's the content, what's the rights, and the last point here is you really need to think about the fact that one image or one video clip or one audio clip can actually implicate a number of different
This remind me
rights.
of history
So
class.
here's an example of a case that came down.
I don't know what
actually,
they
the
talking
case
about.
was
They all
settled.
sitting here just
But
teaching
here
us
was the
stuff.
question. The estate of James Brown. So first of all, we're dealing with the estate, the heirs. He's passed away. The estate told Corbis, if you want to get in the business of selling photographs that have the face of James Brown,
Where you
it's
from?
no longer
I'm from
just a
Chicago.
copyright issue. Now you need to go to the family because you are using his famous face to sell your photograph.
I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
We had a situation a few years ago, really just a few years ago, 2012, where many companies who'd been paying licensors for the right to use
Said a
the
few
face
years
of Marilyn
ago. That was a
Monroe and
decade
the name
ago.
Marilyn Monroe, and all of us would have assumed an incredibly famous person clearly would have a right of publicity. And what did the court rule? The court ruled that when she passed away, she lived in a state that did not recognize the right of publicity after you died. So suddenly, people who had paid millions of dollars in licensing rights were able to stop paying those fees. One of my favorite ads of all time, ideas are sexy too. So here we have a great example of an ad
Einstein.
where you've got the photographer who took the photograph of this young man. You had the release of the right of privacy of the model. And then they just slapped the face of Albert Einstein on top of it.
How many people are on the live
And
stream?
General
On
Motors
our live
ran this
stream, we
ad
have like
in People magazine.
280. It's a lot of us. Okay. Hold on, let me see.
And Hebrew University, which had acquired the estate of Albert Einstein, sued under the rights of publicity. And what did the court say? Again, just a few years ago, he did have a right of publicity, and it did last, but it had been over 55 years, and even though there was no statute that said how long that right lasted, the court simply concluded 55 years is long enough. Here we have an example on the left of a photograph of Allison Chang at her church picnic. Her photograph was taken by her friend, and then it was put on a file sharing website. And someone at Virgin decided, since it was on a file sharing website, it was available for use. And they used it indeed for an ad to pitch a service. So it went from being church picnic with friends to suddenly using the face of Allison Chang to sell a product. And Virgin was sued by the parents of Allison. A couple more slides on right of publicity. Here we have Rosa Parks when she was arrested for not giving up her seat. A reminder to all of us, if we are going to be arrested, look good, wear a suit, because your photograph may be used in posterity. Some years later, and a few years after her death, there was a product created. So I want you to think about your NFTs as a product that's being created, it's being minted.
How do you get Ecomi?
Rosa Parks'
You can
name,
go through. You can go
had
to the
her
description
face,
of any one
had
of my
information
videos. It's
about
in the
her.
bottom.
And
I have a
the
whole
estate of Rosa
video
Parks
on it.
sued, claiming it was the use of famous attributes to sell a product. And what did the court say? The court said in this case, in the US, state and federal rights of speech trumped the rights of publicity. Now, one of the reasons that rights of publicity are very tricky for all of us in advising clients is they're state governed. They are not governed by a uniform federal law. And as a result, look at all of these things that we don't necessarily know countrywide. We don't know whether all of the states recognize that right, or how long it lasts, or whether your kids can inherit it, or whether you can right now by contract transfer it, which rights are protected, and what kind of limitations, such as the First Amendment. So that is one reason why when your NFTs involve a famous name or face, you have all these issues we have to talk about. Also in the US in particular, we see the use of trademarks, brands, for certain social purposes.
That's real?
In this case,
What the hell is a
the use of
McMurder?
McDonald's Golden Arches, along with the slogan, "Over 1 billion animals killed,"
What is
was used to criticize McDonald's. The slogan on the right, "Stop the Olympic Prison," was used by an organization
people
to
and
try to
what they
stop
be
the
fighting
use
for.
of certain facilities that were used at the Olympics. And what you'll find is in the U.S., for example, the Stop the Olympic Prison, that was found to be free speech, as was the McMurder symbol. But if this McDonald's poster had been used in the UK, they might very well have been sued for trade libel. So laws really differ. So it's a reminder that lawyers.
This is a dude on the YouTube with a whole not McDonald's
video. But we
video.
also have to think about international implications if you're going to sell your NFTs internationally. And this is why your terms of service
how much
really
Omi you have?
Matter.
I have less than $1 million.
To ground those
I'm
terms of
trying to
service
get up
in
there.
a
I'm waiting for my
law
funds to clear.
that
I've
you
been
can't.
waiting for 2 weeks.
A couple of other points here. Josh may be able to tell us more about this. Sometimes when you have a photograph of a famous person, if you look more closely, you will see they are also wearing art. So the whole world of tattoos and whether you can use the likeness of a famous person in a video game, for example. Here's a link to a New York Times article where manufacturers of video games have been sued because they have likenesses of players with tattoos on them, and the players don't own the copyright in the tattoos. Here, another example is the use of a trademark as part of a tattoo on an athlete's body. YMCA.
When is the interview
I'm
gonna start?
aging myself if I say YMCA.
About 40 minutes now, it looks like. About 40 minutes.
That particular song is a few years ago, one of the composers of
50,
the song,
40,
Mr.
50
Willis,
minutes. That's when David is going to be the first one on.
Notice, I should
then
say,
after David,
to
Dan is going to come on.
Reclaim copyright in a composition he had previously sold to the labels, because U.S. copyright allows contractors to get their rights back 35 years later. So what does this mean? It means if you're the platform,
say when you're a millionaire, can I fly you to Scotland and take you on a date?
Today,
I would love to come to
owner of
Scotland
that content
and go on a
should send
date.
a notice that terminates the rights to the company who licensed it to you. You might have heard about this a couple weeks ago. After about 2 or 3 days.
That sounds like a rapper.
My clients were sending me this particular article. And why do I bring this up? I bring it up because Nike had sold these shoes that had the Nike logo, the Nike name, and then those shoes were adapted by Lil Nas, allegedly with a drop of blood in this material in the shoe. And it raises the question, if a licensor licenses to you the right to use a brand or to use certain content, can you change it? Can you allow your users to change it? Can you allow them to combine it with other content?
Because that means, like,
So,
if Veve can use
some of the
Batman,
podcasts I've
can they
listened to,
change
a
Batman's
lot of
cape?
the folks
Is that
who are
a part of the
supporting
agreement?
the use of
I think this is the
NFTs
type of
by
stuff that you
users
have to agree
are also
on
advocating that
as you're
users
partnering,
have
though.
a great deal of latitude how they present that content. And finally,
I don't
just
see
wanna
why brands
remind
be
us all
tripping, man.
that sometimes we have content that is not created by humans. Here we have Cooper, who lives in Seattle, and he goes around taking photographs of his neighborhood. No human is behind the taking of that photograph. And now we have one of my favorite titles here, Art School for Algorithms. We have now art that is created by artificial intelligence, no humans behind the creation of the art. And the question becomes, how do you get a license for this? Who do you negotiate with? And finally, a story that happened several years ago, and that is where Amazon, that had licensed the use of certain content, at one point concluded it did not have the right to license this content electronically, and it literally flipped a switch, reversed the rights it had previously granted to people, and this copy of 1984, which is really quite ironic, this copy of 1984 disappeared from the libraries of the people who had purchased it.
Yeah, it's
so here's
weird.
the question I have for you. In your terms of use or your terms of service, are you going to reserve the right to reverse a transaction? Because remember, this area of law is really an amalgam of a whole bunch of areas of law. There is no such thing as NFT law.
Bro, what I'm wondering is how they gonna have this whole little NFT convention and spend the whole first hour scaring people away from NFTs. It's like, do you really own it? Are you gonna be able to legally own it? Can you take it off platforms? Like, they spent the whole first hour scaring the shit out of people. Are you kidding me?
A lot to take in.
What type of intro is this? You're supposed to be partying, dancing, something.
Because
Pump
the
me
licensing
up.
community is long familiar with collectibles, the collectible business, with fandom. But the question really is NFTs a business category that everyone should get into? And I'd love just to sort of hear your thoughts on this. Is this something that every brand out there should all of a sudden, as we're seeing the kind of revenue that is out there that some of these brands are earning from this, is this a category that makes sense for every brand out there?
Of course.
I can take that. I'll jump in.
Somebody would even buy a Burger King NFT, no cap. Every brand needs an NFT.
And the speculative nature around it has created a lot of hype and often a lot of pressures at the licensed IP level to figure out their first move. Josh, obviously, way ahead of the game. But the underlying value, at least that we see in NFTs, isn't necessarily the speculative nature, meaning if I buy it for 100, could it be worth $1 million? More so the idea of digital ownership and the concept that, thanks to the blockchain, you can put an asset, a media file, whether an image or a video or anything, onto the chain, mint it, and then prove its ownership from person to person. If you believe that the idea of ownership, which has been in the physical world forever, means something also in the digital world, then yes, I would say that it is something. This is a completely new industry. This is something that I believe every licensed IP will get into. It's the reason why, we pivoted and created Recur, as a function or out of Trevco, because we believe in the idea that
Trevor know what he's talking about out here.
Something, that there are endless opportunities and possibilities for them to then express that ownership, whether in an app or in a game or in whatever gets developed over the next, few years or 10 years or 20.
I could just add to that really quickly. I think everything Trevor said is right on. I think the one thing brands just need to think about is who their audience is and who they're.
I didn't confirm nothing actually.
Children, right? Because of that speculative nature right now, I don't think we can avoid that aspect of it. So I think you really just need to know your audience.
I just sent it from my bank account. It hasn't even cleared for me sending it from my bank account. Again, not the transferring from there to Bitforex. That haven't even started.
But
it's literally
to understand what
having the funds.
Because I think that's one of the beauties of NBA Top Shot is that it has a very robust community that's actively engaged. So that those sort of, as I'm thinking about it, it's sort of your audience and then the community that you're speaking to and how you do that are sort of two critical points.
So, and I know, Pam, you want to say something, but I guess, from both Trevor and Josh, what you're saying is that just as, sort of old school, we would evaluate potential categories, it really goes back to, does it make sense for the brand? Ultimately, does it serve that audience, that consumer, that community? And Pam, you wanted to jump in?
Not necessarily, Maura, because I feel as an attorney, we're here to support what the business people do.
You Cavell or Cavell, what you mean?
So, we would be supportive of what folks are trying to do. The issue is, how do we best protect them in terms of moving forward? And that's really the critical issue. There's so little known at this moment about how legal challenges are going to be handled.
Bro, this is like the disclaimer. This is the disclaimer crew who need to go on at the end after the exciting stuff is done.
Medium. That hasn't changed at this moment. So we don't want to think about NFTs as though they leave all the rules behind. They don't. So in making a decision of how to proceed and whether this makes sense for your business, you also have to consider what rights you have.
Bro, this reminds me of that Charizard token when they were sitting here trying to tell us it's not a scam. Yet in the freaking text they say, we do not own the rights to this, we're not affiliated. They said we do not have the right to sell you anything. It's like,
yeah, and I want to add real quick just to Josh's point on community.
I didn't even need to hear them sit here and break down IPs to know that was illegal. What the hell Charizard token was doing?
The NBA community is really astonishing and amazing, right? It's been able to bring the NBA community, the fans, together onto a platform to converse, to trade, to talk about.
Where's the Ecomi talk
about this?
In about
this item that they now
in about 30 minutes, homie. 30 minutes.
Socialize and. While I've loved selling
I think it's 30 minutes.
my entire life, and trust me, I still love selling T-shirts. I haven't necessarily created a community for the IP that we work with. I mean, they're out there. They're expressing their own personal, individualism with that T-shirt.
It's in about 30 minutes.
Coming together and meeting up in Ann Arbor, as an example, with Superman tees, NFTs, because it's a digital asset and because it can track from one owner to the other. IP does get the opportunity to create a community. You know, there are choices to make drops in marketplaces, and we think that very well might get oversaturated.
Now, nobody from Ecomi is right here. This is just random people talking about licensing.
So where we focus
and telling us the rules and how it works and
building
stuff.
Communities, you know, dedicated communities where the fan can come together, and this really is the first time.
This actually is interesting. It's a lot of value they're telling us.
Have the peers bring, you know, come
like honestly, if you listen to this, it will boost your respect for all that Veve has to do to get to where it's at,
and then have them interact with something to share and talk about and socialize, and that's, you know, why we think this NFT space is going to be so impactful.
And honestly, this is very good.
Of this too, and
listen to how complex this is. This is really telling us
right now
how it's not going to be easy to catch up to Veve. They're years ahead in licensing, and this is the most difficult part.
Experiential, whether it's something gaming.
I don't think Vive's going to have competition, to be honest with you.
Added jet fuel right now. You know, those are the types of things of how we're looking at it is, you know, the NFT, which for all intents and purposes, at this point, simplistically, is like a digital trading card. But once you add, you know, the real meaty gaming or experiential, like some individuals have done, I think that's when we're going to start to see like the second wave of a liftoff of what this business can be.
And I do want to make it clear, you know, we always talk about the utility. To Josh's point, the question might come up: do
you think Charizard token is illegal? Charizard token is 100% illegal. It admits that they're illegal on their website. They said we do not have the right to anything. We're not in any way affiliated with Pokemon. Then that means you can't use the name Charizard. You can't use anything Pokemon related.
Very near.
They just explained why Charizard token is illegal.
I've been getting a lot of questions, and certainly since we announced,
it's still going to take a while for the proper channels to take Charizard token down, but it is a big scam.
So a lot of brand owners have come to me and said, you know, I don't really understand this, but I feel like if I don't get into it now, it's going to just pass me by, and I'm going to lose. And I'm getting management saying to me, you know, you've got to get into this, you've got to get into this, and they don't even know where to start. And they want to take baby steps. Is that even possible?
And yeah, I'll come to Las Vegas. I'm definitely down to do some meetups and stuff. Once we hit milestones, I'm down to do some meetups. I'm always down.
I mean, I think from my perspective, it's sort of a yes and a no. It comes down to what your expectations are, right? If you want to test something out, yes, you can launch an NFT. You can go into OpenSea or some other platform, you know, that has a wider range of NFTs, and you can launch something. Now, that's going to live in the marketplace.
They don't have big licenses. I think they have some. I just think Veve hasn't really announced big, super big ones yet.
The market that can be pulled.
They have insane licenses.
You know, when the license expires or what have you, you will have something that lives in the marketplace forever. Now, I think in the sense of, again, it goes back to what's your expectation. I don't think by evaluating the marketplace right now and seeing what's happening, is it going to pass you by? It is our belief. Again, I don't know what the volume will look like in this business, but it's our belief that this business is here to stay, and it is growing, and there's more entries into the market.
Ecomi's burning 500 mil a day. What is preventing it from hitting 100 in the future?
So I think there is something.
I don't know how high it could go. I don't know the mathematics on that.
Not feeling rushed.
I'm one who thinks that it can easily get to like $10, but sort of at the point where it is at
the right asset
like
that you're launching, or at a minimum, you're
$100 or something like that, the market cap would be insane, like high trillions. If it's not into the number after trillion, I don't know what that is.
They'll say dipping your toe in the water could be
that would
a very expensive dip.
It gets unrealistic after around the $10 area. It is very unrealistic.
One thing to consider, as Josh mentioned, is doing your research. You know, the NFT infrastructure that exists today, that started 2 or 3 years ago, was, you know, compared to today, was built on technology that is light years in advancement today. There are underlying smart contracts that define the rules of how an NFT behaves, and understanding how those smart contracts work. Whether they're upgradable.
The link is posted on the Ecomi Twitter.
NFT,
you
right?
gotta sign up and register somewhere.
Treated equally. OpenSea is different than Webull, and really none of those things exist out in the marketplace standpoint. So remember that some of your earliest NFTs that you release could become your most valuable 5 or 10 years from now. And if you don't have an understanding of those smart contracts and how they work, then you could possibly be in a situation that could damage you and or could be limiting in a way.
See what he just said? Hold your NFTs 5-10 years.
When you were thinking about dipping your toe in the water as either licensor or licensee, you know, as a lawyer, we are guided by contracts. Trevor just mentioned this smart contract, which is really a little bit different than the kind of licensing agreements that we talk about in terms of governing the relationship between licensor and licensee. So one of the first things, in addition, if you're the licensor and you're looking to decide, do I even have the rights to convey? That's an important thing. Do I need to develop or protect some other trademarks, copyrights, whatever? But another suggestion is to make sure that you look at the agreements you have in place to see if you've even defined a category so broadly that a licensee might suggest that they've already got the rights to develop NFTs. And you, as the licensor, may consider that that's not.
I think Veve is the only one with so many licenses, but they have Alcon. That's a cheat code. Like, this is why I'm so invested in Veve. Like, listen to how complex this is.
So the reverse is true of a licensee, exploring what rights they actually have in their license.
This is literally so difficult, and then they have Alcon, who's the master of this. Alcon mastered this, and he has so many connections and stuff. Like,
I mean, to me, it's always the
Veve is a cheat code.
That's what's all, you know, and obviously. Great counsel is always a good thing to have. I've always considered it to be an important investment whenever you're embarking on these kinds of things. But so are we looking at this almost as sort of an evolution of, you know, if you look at sort of the media world, and Trevor, you know, I spoke a little bit about this, where, you know, back in the day, we had, you know, records. So there were masters, and then there were presses.
We're literally 30 minutes away now from Omi Coin coming on.
Looking at that
from
very
Dan.
physical iteration. And then, of course, the technology.
Hopefully, he's not here talking with some dry people too, though.
Things like that, which hadn't been.
I mean, this is interesting, the laws and stuff, but
obviously the famous Beatles case. So, is this?
I was expecting something different.
Is this an iteration of what has started all those years ago in sort of in this digital media world that we're seeing today? And there will be something that replaces this. Josh, you started in this world 3 years ago, and now you're already seeing, you know, pretty significant changes. And then, importantly, how do we really even think about this? And not and embrace it, because to your point, Josh, it's not going away, or Trevor's point, it's not going away. And this is an exciting, dynamic way for consumers to really enjoy their favorite brands and things like that. So this is a good thing, but how do we manage this?
The rate that the market cap goes up slows down.
Not just the upside potential, but certainly
if it burns Omi,
you know, involved with this. So how do we
actually have to look more into that?
I don't want to say hedge your bets with lawyers on board here, but how do you figure out, you know, a way forward that mitigates risk as best in a world that there's so many unknowns?
I mean, from a business perspective, mitigating risk. I mean, obviously, there's lawyers. You know, I go to my lawyer all the time. Like, what's the riskiest problem?
Are you expecting a big announcement? You never know with David.
More purely
never know.
From a business standpoint, I think the way we're sort of looking at it is, we're not necessarily looking to over-license.
If he mentions Pokemon, at all, I'm 100% convinced he has the Pokemon license. I'll tell you that.
We're going to look at other executions in the space, and I think from our perspective, it's not so much of what's happening now, but what's happening next in the sense of innovation, you know, the utilization of our rights. How is that going to be innovative? Will it differentiate itself, you know, from what we currently have, which is really no different than how you would look at anything in the licensing space. You know, and I think, you know, we're looking to sort of just grow the business and sort of naturally grow it as opposed to just over license it. Does that mitigate risk? Maybe. I don't know. I would sort of defer to sort of the lawyers. Does that mitigate risk?
That you already 100% convinced. I am too.
Manage it in a proper way, not over license, and think about what's innovative. What would my membership, the players themselves, really be proud of, right? Because they've
how can you see Omi dipping
their group licensing rights, and then thinking about the consumer. Is this going to be something that resonates to consumer? Again, I know it doesn't speak to the risk aspect of it, but that is certainly how we're looking at it from a business perspective.
I'll add one thing from a tech perspective. The underlying smart contract, and to be clear, a smart contract is essentially a snippet of code that defines how an NFT can interact, the rights technically that have already been
negotiated. Go back in the fives, please.
What rights the consumer is given based on what they're buying. The smart contract is upgradable, could be upgradable, like an iPhone, meaning if you download an app.
So we're at 6.7 right now.
And there is an update to that app, it can be upgraded by the original developer. And so remember that this is a very nascent space, as Josh
This
mentioned.
is a weird place for an
Utility is
announcement,
coming and the space is going to change
but
dramatically. And so one way to
I don't
potentially
know. I
mitigate
think I'm looking more so for a hint, maybe.
carefully step forward is to make sure that the smart contract you're minting on top of, which doesn't really
or like
exist,
some little
has
nuggets,
or is
like because
upgradable.
I guess
Because
this
as new
little
tech
event
comes
is
out,
to
you'll want to
educate
make sure
people
that
on the
NFTs
space.
that you release
So
from your
obviously,
IP
I think that they're going to
can be
brag about some of their
interactive with
biggest
whatever
accomplishments, and in
technology
their
or
bragging about
applications
these
that those fans
accomplishments,
want to
I feel like they're going to
interact
drop
with.
something very, very important to the Omi community.
Okay, so
So
I want to bring it around.
that's what I'm
now,
assuming this is. I'm
because
assuming they're
this
trying to
is,
get more
you know,
licenses,
interesting
and they're going to be
exciting. I
basically
think,
bragging
you know,
about the
evaluating
benefits and
whether
trying to
go
sell
into this and
licensors
where
right
the
here.
technology is
So
going. But bringing it back to the licensing community, how do we get paid on these things? Like, how do you to ask the crass question, which I always do, how do I make my money? That's what ultimately I really, as a licensor, want to understand as well. What
how many more minutes to the panel?
And then I can also help to
25.
How much risk
About
I have
25.
an
Yeah,
appetite
25
for.
exactly.
But it also starts often with, okay, so how do I even get paid on this in this brave new world?
Or are you
Are
asking?
it royalties? Are we getting, because, and does that live, as these things can live on, Trevor, as you're saying, like for 20 years or something, is this the ultimate long tail that I get to participate in a rev share forever and ever and ever? How does that work?
Well, from a licensor perspective, at least how we're operating, I suppose it would be different for others. We're getting our royalties in U.S. currency, simplistically put. And those royalties are derived from primary sales, which are those pack drops, and then the secondary marketplace, where it lives on the NBA Top Shot Flow platform. That's how we are that's how the cash flow, what that waterfall looks like for us.
I think we might hear some new exchange news.
I can add some color as well.
Here, I'm hoping for some new exchange news, maybe.
Typically, there is a primary sale, as Josh mentioned, and a secondary sale. And you've probably all heard about the notion of a recurring royalty. Keep in mind that most of the time, if not all of the time, you hear about a recurring royalty that only occurs on the platform. So on NBA Top Shot or on Nifty Gateway or on Referral. But the minute that NFT leaves, that secondary royalty breaks. So the reason why we're called Recur is because we are developing the standard for the recurring royalty across chain, which we think is very important. Joe Lubin, the founder of Ethereum, is an investor of ours. It's very important that as people own these NFTs, they can take them and interact with the applications of their choice, right? So that's very important, and making sure that you, the IP, get that recurring royalty no matter where that asset ends up reselling. Could happen on platform, it could happen off platform in the eBay of NFTs, which is OpenSea, as Josh mentioned.
I wonder if you can take an NFT from some other platform and bring it onto Veve first in the future.
It could be looked at like a revenue split. Typically the royalty rates are a little higher than your traditional consumer product physical merch deal. But the IP has to make a choice. Are you in the licensing business, or is this something you're going to do yourselves? We have not seen brands taking this and doing it themselves. The crypto space is a decentralized, unregulated industry, and it could be very dangerous. All the horror stories you heard of 5 years ago, those things necessarily haven't gone away. And so having a partner, Dapper Labs in Josh's case, Recur as an example, or anyone else in the crypto space to help the brand navigate this, could be as much risk mitigation as it is opportunity. And I think that's very important as we look to, how do you structure this?
Well, for Maura, one of the things, that we had talked about, and I think Trevor and Josh are in a good place to discuss this issue on the royalty side, and you all were previously mentioning, the distinction that we've come to understand in the licensing business is we get a royalty at one channel, one chain in the whole distribution process as a licensor. You can't keep drawing on different channels as it goes further away from the license agreement. And so you might talk about that distinction. I think you started to mention it, but how the kind of nature of, Trevor, the recurring aspect of these royalty payments is very interesting and so distinct from, first sale doctrine, which normally is what happens.
So licensors make more money with this. NFTs make them more money.
Let me just ask a philosophical question. This is the first time ever that licensed IP will be able to participate in the secondary transaction forever. Like, let's just stop right there, okay? Do we think as a community, as a licensing community, that licensed IP is going to let NFTs stay in the size or existence or scale it is today? No way. No way, right? I mean, this is the first time ever in the world the licensed brand could participate in that secondary royalty. That in itself alone is a reason and a cause for licensed IP to get involved with NFTs, and therefore a reason that NFTs will probably continue to scale as the NBA Top Shots has seen, right? I mean, that alone, I mean, how many billions of fans across all the IP in the licensing community, right? I mean, we could technically move the world together. It's going to happen from that reason alone, to your point, Pamela. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Can I just throw one thing out there? And that is, you know, there's this test that we see in the licensing world, sometimes called the economic realities test. I call it the duck test. Does it look like a duck? Does it walk like a duck? Does it sound like a duck? And what I mean is, these contracts where licensors get royalties forever have not been tested. It isn't impossible, and I don't want to put words in.
She sounds like one of my
Pamela's mouth,
teachers.
but she might agree with me after all of our years of working in this field. It's possible that a court someday will say that that product has been sold and that the purchaser now is free of this sort of long tail of constantly having to pay or share revenues downstream. In other words, what we think of as the first sale. Once I buy that T-shirt with a brand on it, I own that T-shirt, and I can sell that T-shirt.
I don't think that this is going to be a problem.
I don't owe the brand anything.
I think this is
So
that
the real
old
question
school
is,
way of thinking.
Are we going to treat, because all of you are using the phrases digital ownership, and lawyers like me say, that word ownership, that's a really interesting word. Is that really owned, or is that just licensed, like my Apple, iTunes download, which makes it very clear to me, I don't own that song. I just have a license to listen. So I just want to throw out that these models that we're building haven't been tested, and it's going to be fun. I can hardly wait to continue practicing another 35 years and see where this goes.
I love that. I love that spirit. Well, I do think that the opportunity to be able to participate.
I get what she's saying. I get her point, but
from, through
I don't care if I buy an NFT for $59 and I sell it for $1,000. I don't care who gets a cut of that. I want my $1,000.
Intellectual property.
Go ahead and take your little fees. I don't care.
So I truly am excited.
It's like no one cares about that, man.
I think on the legal side, it's going to keep you guys all well employed for many, many years to come. So as there's a long tail in the world of NFTs, there's certainly a long tail for legal debates around this. And I think this is really just the start of this conversation around this. I have been scrolling through, not checking my personal emails, don't worry, just looking at all the questions. We've checked off some of them, but there are really a lot that we just haven't had the chance to
Ecomi coming on in 18 minutes.
That we're wrapping up very soon.
18 minutes.
Before I end, I do want to give out my email address to folks, and do email me and I'll send you slides. All 1,200 of you, or however many, I will definitely send it out. From
KK, that was me. That was me. That's like one of those things that you got to think, but you don't say something like that.
I think just, you
got to
there's
chill.
so much excitement around this industry. And if we could leave, each of you could leave with one thought for today's participants to take away. Not to put all of you on the spot, but I am. What do you think that might be? Trevor, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would just say that not all NFTs, we believe,
Says she just want to buy the dip after this.
Should be earned, and that if we look through the speculative bubble, it will ebb and flow. What is the utility on the other side, and how do you, as a licensed IP, engage in your community? Those would be the questions that I would ask, and leave you with.
Terrific. Pam?
The Omi News, you came at the right time. Omi News is in about 15 minutes.
NFTs, you've got the luxury for a short period of time.
David, you was going to come on at 15.
But at some point, this train is going to be way far from the station, and you'll really be, I think, playing catch up. And certainly from an agreement standpoint and protecting intellectual property.
Okay. Josh?
I would say, looking at look at what's next, not what's right now.
Did
Did
I miss something? Nah, just a bunch of legal talk. It's been interesting. I'm gonna try to link to it after this so you all can watch it back. But
I would conclude by saying that remember that the future has happened many times, and so as you put together your business model and your contracts, the more that your business model is fair and fair to your audience, fair to your licensors, well written, you'll be in good shape if a judge ever has to look them over.
Right. Thank you all. And as a former licensor, I think I would recommend that always think about your brand and understand your consumer and where you want to take your brand and where your consumer wants you to take that brand. And always, always, always make sure you have good counsel on your side. That always serves you well. Thank you all for this thoughtful discussion. You're generous with your time. We really appreciate this. I'm forewarning you, this is just the start of this conversation. I know we'll be back asking you for more programs like this because I unfortunately am not able to get to all the questions, and to all of you whose questions we didn't get to answer, please accept my apologies, but feel free to reach out and I'll do my best to not further confuse you and point you at least in the right direction is the very least that I can do. And certainly starting with these 4 smart executives would be a great place for anyone to start.
I'm conflicted too.
So
I want the drop and
so
don't
much.
want it too,
I really,
or want the
really
announcement.
Appreciate your time today. And to all of those online, please stay for the rest of the program. There's lots of great conversations continuing on this exciting topic. So
you best believe.
Thank you.
So we got David. It should be I think we got one more before David, but he's only going to talk for 15 minutes because David comes on in 15 minutes. So yeah, David comes on at 12:30. Okay, and this guy's going to talk for 15 minutes. So let's check him out. See what he's talking about. Yeah. Then after him, we got David. David's going to be on for about 45 minutes. Then how shortly after... Oh, then it's going to be a break for 15 minutes. Then we're going to see Dan. Yeah. All right, so yeah, now it's time to get to the good part, man. It's time to get to the good part of this.
Hello, everyone. I'm Steph Wissink with Jefferies. Thank you for joining us for this next session. On the screen with me, you're going to see Alex Silverman. Alex is a senior reporter in sports for Morning Consult. And I actually stumbled upon an article that Alex had written regarding a recent survey that Morning Consult had done regarding NFTs. And that was our first exchange. So this is actually hot off the press. This is an early April survey, and results were released on April 5th. And Alex is going to share with us some of the latest findings of the study around the market for NFTs. The way the session is set up is I'm going to hand it off to Alex. He's going to take control of the screen and share some slides. And then I'm going to come back on and we're going to have just a really quick discussion towards the end. So Alex, over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Stephanie. Thanks for having me here. And good afternoon, everybody. Like Stephanie said, my name is Alex Silverman, and I'm a senior reporter covering the business of sports for Morning Consult. And over the past few months, I've also become our unofficial reporter covering the world of NFTs, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. Okay. For those of you who aren't familiar with Morning Consult, we are a global data intelligence company delivering insights on what people think in real time. We survey tens of thousands of people every day to get a sense of what people are thinking in real time about a wide range of issues, and provide those findings to business leaders to inform their decision making.
Bro, namaste, you
gotta
chill.
We track public opinion every day in 15 countries and can commission surveys in more than 100 countries around the globe.
I think my girlfriend will like that talk,
The research I'm here to talk to you about today is the product of a survey conducted among 2,200 U.S. adults about the hobby of collecting in general.
You back just in time.
Of collecting digital
David's
assets,
coming on in about
like
13 minutes.
Tokens or NFTs.
Let me go get some water before they come on.
Interesting questions about the NFT craze to me was whether the same people who have been collecting physical items for years, whether it be baseball cards or coins, would embrace or reject the concept of collecting intangible goods. So before we delve specifically into NFTs, let's take a quick look at our findings about collecting in general. First, 1 in 3 Americans we surveyed said they collect some sort of physical item, which shows just how big the market is for collectibles in general and the sort of opportunity that exists if even a fraction of physical collectors can be converted into the digital space. When you include people who said they aren't collectors today but used to be, the share of Americans with experience collecting increases to more than half the population. So taking a look at who is most inclined to be collectors. By generation, millennials and Gen Xers were most likely to collect some sort of physical item, followed by baby boomers. Generation Z adults, who for this survey were 18 to 24, were considerably less likely than others to identify as collectors of physical items. There's also a significant gender gap in physical collecting, with men twice as likely as women to identify as collectors. And those with higher incomes naturally have more disposable income to spend on non-essentials like collectibles, something that's become very apparent during the pandemic when we've seen the market for everything from high-end baseball cards to watches and art skyrocket. So now let's take a quick look specifically at NFTs, and then we can examine the overlap between physical and digital collectors. As of late last month, just 16% of Americans said they were familiar with NFTs. By this point, NFTs had already generated more than $1.5 billion in sales during the first quarter of this year, and were making headlines after the $69 million art auction at Christie's auction house by the artist Webull. Even more telling is that only 4% of American adults said they were very familiar with NFTs, while 64% said they were not familiar at all. By comparison, 11% of respondents were familiar with cryptocurrency, and another 28% were somewhat familiar with it. So in the survey, 10% of respondents said they collect NFTs, with 4% saying they are avid collectors and 6% saying they are casual collectors. Here, you can see the teal bars from earlier indicating the share of each generation that collects physical items. We've now added the blue bars to show comparatively the share of respondents from each generation that said they collect NFTs either avidly or casually. You'll notice that millennials are driving adoption of NFTs, while Generation Z hasn't quite embraced them. So either Generation Z simply isn't as interested in collecting as previous generations, or perhaps they don't have the level of disposable income as their older peers to spend on luxuries like collectibles. Similar to physical collectibles, NFT adoption has skewed heavily towards men. Alexis Ohanian, the billionaire founder of Reddit and investor in the NFT space, recently went on had a tweet thread saying he believes that bringing more women into the fold would be a game changer for both physical collectibles and digital collectibles, and our data seems to bear that out.
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a huge announcement based on how this has gone so far.
A couple of times we've found that there is significant overlap.
I think maybe they're going to leak a few nuggets. Few nuggets here and there.
25% of physical collectors said they are already in the NFT space, and 86% of NFT collectors.
Like for instance, we know that they have 100+ licenses. I think that maybe we might learn that they got over 150 licenses or 200 licenses or something like that. Like
to be in the NFT
something
space.
bragging about Veve.
Were only slightly more likely than average adults to collect
I think we're going to get little nuggets.
But it's worth noting that individuals who said they were esports fans were more than twice as likely as regular gamers or sports fans to adopt NFTs. And of course, as you would expect, users of cryptocurrency are at the forefront of the NFT movement. And here you can see the share of each group that said they would be interested in investing in NFTs at some point in the future. And that includes about half of physical collectors, which represents a significant market opportunity. We've seen traditional trading card companies.
If gamers saw Veve, that number would be way higher.
Blend their physical and digital
gamers
card
just ain't
offerings,
seen Veve yet.
Which seems like a smart strategy to increase NFT adoption among physical collectors. One other notable finding that I think exemplifies the value proposition of NFTs is the fact that 86% of NFT collectors said they value being part of a community of digital collectors. That's compared to 56% of physical collectors who cited community as an important reason they collect.
Why you shake your water?
Because
my water was hot.
I
put ice in it.
People together at
and the
shows
ice is
and
cooling
even
it
online,
down.
On message boards. Digital
My water
community
be hot.
is such an inherent part of collecting NFTs given the peer-to-peer nature of blockchain. So I hope this research has helped illustrate who is currently engaging with NFTs and some potential opportunities for growth in the market. It's still very early days for NFTs, and my colleagues and I at Morning Consult will continue to closely track the space.
7 minutes.
More surveys like this one. And now I'll pass back to Stephanie, who will take some questions.
Thanks, Alex. That was
Where's
really helpful.
David?
I have a few prepared questions. The first is just on the gender split. Why do you think men are a more likely collector?
Men want money.
Both on the physical side
we
and
gotta
on the
get money
digital
to
side.
provide for the lady.
Some people that I've spoken to in the industry, particularly on the sports side, have sort of pointed out that traditionally most mainstream offerings of collectibles have been focused around male athletes.
They have some NFT eyelashes.
Similarly in non-sports collectibles, you've seen
Victoria's Secret NFT.
A lot of the
that
IP,
might go.
the intellectual property that some of these collectible series are based around tend to be male-centric. I think with the sort of
that is true though. Don't nobody really care about the gender split.
I just want to make money recently of women's sports in particular. I think there's a big opportunity there, and I think you'll probably see more collectibles in that space. And I think that's something that the Reddit founder that I mentioned, was very bullish on.
Yo, they dropping the video after this.
What really struck me about the results was the disparity by age demo or by cohort. Clearly, there seems to be a very strong interest among millennials. Anything in your broader survey work or in this survey specifically that would give you a clue as to why that might be relative to other demographic groups?
Yeah, I think, with millennials, we have noticed in some of our survey work, for example, millennials are much more likely than other generations to identify as sports fans. I believe we did a survey that was focused on sort of assessing the sports consumption habits of Generation Z and found that 69% of millennials identified as sports fans compared to 53% of Gen Z. And millennials were also more likely to identify as avid sports fans. So sports is a significant chunk of collecting. So I think that the greater sports fandom of millennials is potentially
4 minutes
a factor there. And I also think that
4 minutes till David.
I've seen some research that Gen Z is sort of pushing back a little bit on the materialistic consumer culture that millennials have sort of been known for buying into. It could potentially be a response.
Oh wow!
That sort of response as well.
It's a lot of people here. Shout out to everybody here.
For you, just given
if you're new, subscribe. Drop a thumbs up.
In the sports space specifically, I think that's one of the bellwether industries that a lot of people are using when they're studying NFTs, just to try to understand the complexities of, as we heard from an earlier panel, the legalities around likeness and where the rights transfer and the downstream access to royalties.
3 minutes till David.
So I'm wondering if you can just help us think through a little bit about some of the survey findings as it relates to sports. Do you think that's going to be an area where NFTs, maybe that's a starting point for a lot of collectors because it is a little bit more tangible, easier to understand versus getting into some of the other areas which are far more dynamic and maybe a little bit more complex?
Yeah, I think, sports has obviously been one of the sort of hotbeds for this NFT activity. Everyone from Rob Gronkowski to Bryson DeChambeau. Today, I think the Warriors became the first professional sports team to issue their own NFT. And then, of course, can't forget about NBA Top Shot. But,
ain't messing with Veve,
though. I guess by the lack of enthusiasm in our results. I thought that sports fans would be much more likely to kind of take an interest in NFTs than the average American. That wasn't really the case. Like the slide showed, it was only 13% of sports
players like to go be there in person, getting the full experience. They like to go out.
Of adults.
You need nerds, people who like being on a computer.
We asked
get the
sports fans as well if their favorite athlete or their favorite team issued an NFT, would they be interested in acquiring it? And 29% of sports fans said yes, which is significant, but not necessarily overwhelming. So
it's 3 a.m. in Australia.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. There's
1 minute.
So many potential applications in sports with ticketing and potential other ways that teams can get creative in using NFTs. I think sort of collectibles is really just sort of scratches the surface with that.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting construct, because for those of us that have been to stadiums where there's a giveaway, the more rare those are, the more desirable those are. There is actually a really strong interest in attending the event because of the opportunity to get your hands on that collectible, because it could be worth something, or maybe it's worth something to yourself.
They legit selling YouTube highlights for $250K. That is true. You can watch that on YouTube. Why would somebody buy that?
What it could mean for the ticketing process,
that's a good point.
Live experience process, and even the follow through after the event has ended. It actually extends the life of that event in a new way, which is really unique as well.
It's 12:30.
Go ahead.
Where is David?
I was just going to throw out the final question. We've got about 1 minute left.
No, you don't.
Single biggest surprise for you in this whole study?
I mean, I really didn't associate. I didn't associate esports necessarily with NFTs so much more. I mean, I thought gamers in general would be more likely to be interested in NFTs because they're just sort of at the forefront of technology,
so
and
we gotta wait for this.
Interested in some of these different franchises with that sort of IP that would make for interesting NFTs. But just the fact that people who are really interested in following competitive gaming were more interested than people who just play video games. That was something that struck me as interesting, and you're starting to see some esports organizations, teams, and leagues get into the NFT space, and I think they'll be particularly creative in how they use them.
Yo, I'm down to do some Ecomi meetups.
Let's leave it there.
Once we hit these milestones.
Consult has been very generous to offer this presentation up for anybody that wants a copy. So here's the way to do that. You're going to email contact@morningconsult.com.
I don't care. Give me Alex. David.
You're going to email this address, contact@morningconsult.com. They will send you a copy of this deck, or you can feel free to reach out to any of your Jefferies or Licensing International representatives, and we'll be sure to get you a copy as well. Alex, thank you so much. Very insightful. Lots of things for us to think about. So we're going to have you back. I know you're just getting started with studying this.
Just say bye.
NFT space. So we'll have you back for another chat.
Great. Looking forward to it.
This sounds like me when I'm trying to get off the phone with my grandma. Relax. She sound like me. Like, just let him go. All I want is David.
Let's go, OMI fam. This is our moment.
It's time, baby. Yo, thanks for the donation. I definitely appreciate it. Foster, appreciate it. Let me see. Bro, where is it at? Where? 12:30, right? It is 12:32. Don't do me like this, David. Don't do me like this, buddy. How you gonna do me like this? Oh, so bruh, if he finna have us out here waiting like this, I feel like he better come sliding through on a Pikachu or something. You gotta, hey, shout out to everybody subscribing. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Be sure to drop that thumbs up, all that good stuff, man. David, also his panel, the one that got us waiting out here. Come on, bruh. Get on in here, David. I know you see us waiting for you. Let's go. David left. Imagine David did the ultimate troll. After he did the ultimate troll, he said, yo, just add these 2 panels at the end so it looked like I'm going to be there, and then I'm not going to show up at all. Bruh. Let's see. Let me go back to this panel. Let me see what's going on at this panel. Panel 2. This session has concluded. Please check back shortly for replay. David, please come back to me. Come back to me, brother. Oh, yo, thanks for the donation. I definitely appreciate all the donations, y'all. Thank you so much. Hold on. Is it coming?
Question.
Let's go.
In the top right-hand corner of your screen. We'll try to save some time towards the end for questions, and I'll be watching for questions that are coming in, and if they weave into our conversation, we will definitely do so. I also want to point out that this is really a global conversation. We have folks, we have somebody here in the States along with me. We have somebody in Singapore. We have somebody down in New Zealand. So we are wrapping the world with NFTs this afternoon.
What up, Cavell? Love the OMI energy.
The conversation about the NFT marketplace started by helping to define exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about a marketplace. What are they? How do they operate? Are they like a retailer? Are they like eBay? Are they like an auction house? And we've heard some people in some auction houses doing this. For this part of the conversation, let's focus on
he is the only one here repping.
When we talk about marketplaces, we'll handle
got the DeLorean behind him.
Zach, do you want to get us started a little bit and talk to us a little bit about what we mean by these marketplaces?
Sure. So there are all sorts of different marketplaces today where NFTs live and transact. We touch on some of these secondary marketplaces, which are open, but they also act as primary marketplaces sometimes too. So you have OpenSea, which is almost like the eBay of NFTs, where any NFT can come in and sell, and you could have, XYZ brand versus next to a digital piece of toilet paper, if you will. Everything's there. It's a mishmash. Anything can exist there. Then you have other types of marketplaces like a Rarible, or a marketplace like Nifty Gateway, which is a closed environment. Someone on a Nifty Gateway, for example, someone can do a drop via Nifty Gateway. That asset will live on Nifty Gateway. Then eventually it can leave, but you can't send an asset into there. So there are different places where primary sales are happening. At Recur, for example, when we were building our solutions for the largest global brands, we actually have our own marketplace on the site for the brand itself, so that brand can have an isolated experience. They don't need to be mixed with other folks, and that was where the primary sale happens. There's also a secondary market on our sites themselves for these brands, but then the assets can leave and then go and trade on one of these open marketplaces as well too. And then where this is going in the future is we'll also see some of these NFTs and assets go and transact in different metaverses or games. And the nature of NFTs are they're very open, and the nature of cryptocurrency is that it's open and that things can travel around. And it's really remarkable that all these transactions, both primary and secondary, can happen in various different locations.
Zach kicked it off really interesting because he talked about the open and closed. And David, the Ecomi world is a little of the closed gated community that Zach spoke about, correct?
Yeah, so we took the approach because we've been around since 2017, and back in 2017, I mean, this NFT, many of you probably know it wasn't a known word. A lot of people can't even spell NFT. So when we approached the licensors at the beginning, they were very scared if this asset lived outside the app. So right now we're a bit of more like a wall garden. Everything's still minted on the blockchain, still have the ID. And, we've got some of the licensors, obviously with all the news happening now, they want to explore how these assets can be sent out. But one of the major thing about what we do,
because Cavell is great, but my friend Gonza is a simp.
The other platforms or marketplace is that we focus on experience. So a big part of the experience is the augmented reality and the showroom, the social sharing, and that asset really, digital asset really only can be utilized on our platform to share that. So we also think, there will be multiple different type of platform like Zach have covered. Some of them are very primary focused. We are very focused on premium brands. We have over 100 brands have signed up, and I think we have another 12 major company with their IP to be on board in the next quarter. So we very focus on premium, and similar to Nifty Gateway, we choose who we work with, and we deliver a whole curation for their program.
And
Thank
Bill,
you.
Can I jump in real quick to feed off what David was saying, because I think it's a really interesting point. And I recognize David was, talking to some of the licensors all the way back in 2017 when NFTs were just getting started. And when I started professionally in crypto building the trading desk and what liquidity even looked like 5 years ago, it also was a tremendously different landscape. And what I'm seeing when I'm talking to some of the largest global brands and the biggest studios in the world is they're recognizing that NFTs are going to have a utility, right? Today, of course, there's an experience that they're having on their own platform. And like at Recur and at Veve, we're providing them their own siloed experience. But we also want to make sure that when you're selling a product to a fan, they could take that asset with them somewhere. So that's why when Recur, we're lucky enough that we started building our tech stack this year. So we didn't have some of the, difficulties that some of the other folks faced back in the day, like Dapper in 2017 nearly broke Ethereum. That's why they had to build the Flow network. Today, there are many other layer 1 solutions, and there's all other forms of layer 2s coming to make things more efficient. But we have the benefit of saying, hey, we can be chain agnostic. We, of course, can create a unique siloed experience for these brands, but we can also make sure that the asset the fan's going to buy and want to interact with, they can take with them and show a friend or bring to a game or participate in this future network that crypto is enabling. And to us, that's really exciting. And just to the brands, which is almost shocking to me initially, because I come from the crypto and technology world. My entire tech team come from that world. And for us to see a lot of these large global studios and these large brands to say, no, it's okay. We want our fans to interact. We want these assets to live on and go to different places has been really cool to see. So I just wanted to touch on that as this industry is evolving, we're seeing this openness come together. And that's what crypto and some of these things are really all about, and engaging with the fans, the back owning it, right? Digital ownership. So it's pretty cool how things have changed.
Gary, you kind of sit between these guys because you're in the B2B and you've been doing a lot of work over the several years in the gaming, which we've touched on. Both people touched on. Tell me a little bit of what you see from these marketplaces and the different experiences.
Yeah, I think what Zach and Dave already shared is a definitely good lead into that. I mean, when people are talking about NFTs, we're really talking about the early incarnation of that, which is like based on Ethereum ERC 721, etc. So I mean, we have the lead author, the person who developed that, right? So I mean, he's on our team, so we're heavily experienced in the NFT space since the beginning as well. And and some of the conversation was leaning around experiences and engagements, and I think that is hugely important as well. And the way we look at that is kind of taking what these guys are talking about and what does it mean for the future, right? So we heard the words like metaverses and things like that, and like engagement with these brands, and what does that mean? So what we do is at Epic, our future vision is to think about not just what NFTs are today, which are essentially, for primarily like visual and digital art, right? Zach has kind of brought up some ideas of like utility and having like added value tied into that. And because you can, I mean, an NFT, the composition of an NFT is it can encapsulate anything that has a form of value, and then you want that value to have immutability and permanency and have traceability and authenticity, so nobody can kind of argue about some of those issues. But then what does that really translate to into the future, right? And we touched about like engagement and things like that. So metaverses, for those that are less familiar with that word, it's kind of referring to like open digital universes. An easy way to talk about that would be, the movie Ready Player One. If people have seen that movie, one giant oasis. It's an alternate universe, and people spend all their time and energy in there. And that's a really important thing to consider and understand, because as we're moving more and more towards a digital first type of experiences, especially in our younger generations, et cetera, the things that matter to us in our physical lives, ownership, belonging, and value, also apply to digital ownership and digital experiences, right? So that's why the power and the importance of metaverses is going to increase. So when people use that word and talk about that, they're talking about like, kind of almost a digital experience. So at Epic, we take a look at what are NFTs now, which, like I mentioned, are kind of more like the digital art expressions. And then think about like what that means in terms of consumer products. So for those of on the webinar that are from a licensing background, consumer products, or anything like that, it's important to understand that what NFTs enable you to do is basically merchandise a digital item, just like you would in a physical item. So what does that mean? Well, the ramifications are through the roof. Now you can basically replicate anything in the physical space in terms of retailing and merchandising and put that in a digital space, but it's infinitely scalable. You don't have production, you don't have distribution, transportation, warehousing, all that type of things. And all these are gonna now persist and exist in these digital realms inside these metaverses. So at Epic, we take a look at what that's gonna be in the 5 years from now and beyond. And what we're creating is a home for all this digital merchandise today, so that as these people and NFTs are becoming more and more popular and more people own these items and collect these items, they're going to have a home for them. And it's like Zach said, it's got to be cross-platform, it's got to be cross-chain, it's got to be interoperable. And at Epic, we're building all of these rails into all these digital platforms. So now you can have this cross-communication between all the digital metaverses that exist.
Yeah, when we talked a little bit about the open versus closed marketplaces, I really want to dive into and understand, because we have a lot of brand owners that are part of this this conference today. And the questions I have, and from my old days of being a licensor, is what are these advantages? What is the advantage of an open versus a closed for a consumer, and more importantly, brand owner? David, you want to talk a little bit about this? You've been working with brand owners for a number of years in this space. Where do you see the advantages for an open and a closed as it relates to both the consumer and the brand owner?
Yeah, obviously, the industry is still very new, as we all talked about. I mean, it's only really blown up the last 18 weeks or 19 weeks. And so we're the very, very beginning of something quite big. And, digital ownership, eventually, when you talk about, ownership, people do want to own it. People do want to take it out the ecosystem, because they think they purchase something and their ownership really belongs to the consumer. So we are starting to understand that a lot of these licensors are begin and open to the idea of having these assets to be sent out. And I guess moving forward, it's all about security. And for us, in our platform, it's all about the user experience. What we don't really want is where right now everything's still very crypto orientated. You need to have a private key, you need to have a MetaMask wallet, you need to set up a lot of these things. And we can't have a user ring us up and say, well, I lost my whole collection. So security is an aspect of it. Education's another big one. And as we transact throughout the period, and this is just very nascent in the industry, and we're going to see a whole, different directions of it. And, one of the major things we see big issues with licensors, it's about royalty coming out, if there's any in the security, which we'll touch base later on. It's about, a lot of the environmental issues on the blockchain, which people talk about. So, and then the experience, what are we actually selling? Are we just digitalizing it because it's the word NFT, or there's some good utility to it? And brand owners are really just beginning to understand, and, the monetization is going to be multiple in many different ways. With us, we very centric focus in the experience. So a lot of the brand owners really coming to us to get their brands in front of their audience in a different social manner, in different way. And they see us as a gateway to help promote to that new categories. And this is no different than buying a physical toy, buying a mug or a t-shirt. It's just that now you can buy a digital image or a digital 3D sculpture of a toy that a licensor produced. Yeah.
Does the experience for the owner change whether it's in a closed environment or an open marketplace?
Absolutely. So I think what really happens is if you're in an environment that does not allow an asset to leave, that's like a really closed environment. And for us, we are creating these siloed experiences for a specific brand so that their, XYZ studio does not have to keep, their item or statue or whatever it is next to, a random other item initially on a sale, as well as their own siloed, secondary market. But if that user cannot take that asset to go engage with it in a different way, in a metaverse like Gary chatted about, or in a game or in another application as this develops, then they lose a lot of the potential future utility. So there's all sorts of different things that we can talk about and things that we are at Recur that we think about all the time is how do we make sure that we're continuing to accrue value back to the brand while also maintaining a really great experience for the fan. Because a fan doesn't want to look back in 6 months or 2 months or whatever it is and be like, wow, I just bought this NFT, it can't do anything, and I'm just staring at it and there was some speculative bubble. No. What we're doing at Recur, for example, is we're looking right past that and trying to think, what's the utility here? How can we make sure we're providing and accruing as much value to the brand by creating their own, experience within the brand, but then the user can then take the asset, wherever else. And then how else are we thinking about royalties, right? We're of course having the royalty on our platform, but what we're also doing is on the actual smart contract level, we have code that is creating a recurring royalty on chain forever. We're creating the standard on ERC 721s for what a recurring royalty will be. So we are the team that's building that. And that means when these assets travel to different open marketplaces or metaverses or games, if there's a transaction, a recurring royalty will go back to the original creator or IP owner or artist or whatever it is. It's the first time ever you can capture this forever, generationally, and that's really, really powerful. And the other thing that we're thinking about at Recur, given our experience and the team's experience dealing in the physical products world as well too, is what's the crossover? Because we've talked a lot about how these assets go and have utility in the digital world, but what's the crossover in the physical world? So how can you have an asset that you've minted today and you're distributed and now a user takes out, but then brand can then come back and communicate with that user and then maybe tied into a movie premiere or access to a drop of a sneaker or something like that. So there's a lot of interesting things to do with engagement by opening things up, allowing things to travel, and future-proofing your NFTs, right? You're future-proofing it by allowing things to be open and travel. We don't know how this technology will travel or change. And as Gary and David and I are all talking about, it's so nascent, it's so new. That's really true. We don't know what the winning chain will be. We don't know what the winning use case will be. We have to keep openness and we have to future-proof these assets to make sure that the brand can continue to engage with it as well as the fan.
Gary, you've worked with a bunch of licensors over this time, and you've seen, because you were in it in the early days too, you've maybe seen a change of perspective from brand owners from a year ago or 2 years ago to the last 60 days. What are you hearing, and why? What are the questions that they're asking, or they want guidance from you on when they're talking about how do I get into this marketplace?
Yeah, that's a really important question and a very pertinent one, obviously, like you said, given the last 60 days and 90 days, and David and Zach both kind of touched on that, well, David did as well. I mean, the conversations have definitely shifted in the last, since the beginning of the year. And it's very funny. I mean, it's interesting, like we've been around since, 2018, and we've been doing, in-game digital drops for, since that time for the past 3 years, tens of millions of dollars of taking consumer brands and dropping them into games, into like audiences in the millions of daily active users, right? So we're talking about at a scale that's, like on a much different level. But yeah, with the conversations with the brands, it's very interesting. I mean, we are actually, in the licensing industry. We've been a digital licensing agent for that entire period of time as well. So we interact with a lot of different brands in a lot of different, all different categories and so forth. And obviously have helped facilitate them into placement into video games for distribution of merchandise. And those, and we have these relationships, and it's basically exactly what you said. I mean, this was never on their radar. We were kind of always the blockchain guys for the last handful of years. Like our CEO was actually at this event 3 years ago speaking about the future of digital commerce, in Las Vegas, right? And back then, it was like nobody knew anything about NFTs and what the blockchain meant to that. But with all the headlines, it's really shifted that. And like David said, the education aspect has changed as well. So, I mean, all of us probably on this panel are the benefit of that. We don't have to spend so much time kind of educating what NFTs are as we used to, but it's more so what's the next question, right? What does it mean to them and how do we help them navigate into this new space? So a lot of the brands and clients that we have do come to us because we have that trusted relationship with them over these periods of time. And the conversation always kind of follows the same path, right? I mean, we help them strategize and think about what their products and what their brand positioning is, and think about like how they want to look at this space and navigate for them in the future. What's really important to know is that it's very important for the brands to maybe not necessarily act too hastily and realize that the brands, they have a lot to lose, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that in a they have something of extreme value way, and they should be mindful of how and they want to enter and do something in this new space. And because I mean, everything is new, like these gentlemen are saying, and there's a lot of attention into capitalizing on these brand values, whether it be celebrities or brands, etc., to help them bring the users over. So when we work with our brand clients, one thing they realize is that Epic brings an entire network of marketplaces. You mentioned earlier, we are a B2B, so we function in a much different kind of level or layer than a lot of kind of B2C applications or marketplaces. We work with everybody. I mean, we can help provide IP and content for other applications platforms to be able to have access to the brands. But we do, like I said, bring a huge network of digital platforms, a lot of games, everything from the biggest, like the Tencents and the Greenas, all the way down, which brings massive user audience base as well. So now we're talking about engagement and interactivity for these brands in a much different level that speaks to their language, right? It's kind of like bringing something to the table at par. But yeah, the conversations are exactly that. There's a lot of kind of hype in the marketplace, a lot of headlines, and it's just about kind of letting them know that it's early and there's still a lot to move, and you don't need to jump in. I know there's some quick dollars that might be able to be had, but I mean, your brand has more to gain and to lose by thinking about it, mindfully how they move forward with it.
A few questions, and if I'm looking at the screen with all the questions flowing in. Some people are asking, does it matter what blockchain you are as to what marketplace you can be on? Do the marketplaces only want to work with a specific or a certain grouping, and that might limit it, or there's some that will work with anybody, et cetera? Can somebody kind of give some guidance on that?
Yeah, I can touch on that one. So right now, the most popular blockchain is Ethereum. There's the most developers building on it. There's the most marketplaces in the NFT space on top of it. So ETH is really capturing the most mind share. The reality is, and this is something we've touched on, is there's some problems with ETH, right? It's expensive. People talk about gas fees and things like that. And there are layer 2 solutions coming out to address some of these concerns. But right now, a lot of the innovation is happening on top of Ethereum. But at least at Recur, we're taking the approach of we don't want to speculate on what the winning chain is. That's not our job. I was a trader for the past 5 years, but that's not what I'm doing now. We just want to go and help the brands and make sure we're helping them navigate the ecosystem. So we're taking a blockchain agnostic approach, because it could be there's a chain that is best for gaming or best for financial services or best for something else. And these NFTs, they also have the potential. Of course, we talk about some of the utility as assets in game and this and that, but maybe they have some sort of value and they're posted as collateral, and that's involved in some ecosystem. So the chain really matters. You want to be able to have your assets be interoperable. You want them to be able to live on and participate in all sorts of different ecosystems. And that's why also at Recur, we actually have the ability to do swaps. So even if we minted today on Ethereum, you can always come back to platform and we swap onto another chain. We also have a trustless swap that exists in the decentralized world. So you don't even have to interact back to our platform. You can just perform a swap, and we rely on cryptographic signatures for that, which is really innovative and cool. But we are taking the approach that, again, if you look back at what the top chains were 5 years ago, it is drastically different than it is today. And a lot will probably change in the future too.
Tomorrow.
So why speculate? The whole goal is try to be future proof.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add in on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Our approach is pretty much similar to Zach, but we, moving forward, the industry is going to be a mass market product. We really believe that the user is going to come on the platform. They don't even need to know what blockchain you're on or what chain my digital assets living on. What they really want, the user really want to know is my collectible there? Is it safe? Is it transferable? And, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when we start building our tech out, one thing that works very well, now 4 years later, we'll be emerging and changing to a new
NFTUPDATE on Twitter ran by a simp for
technology is going to evolve, and the great thing is that there's a lot of hybrid network where we can easily migrate to something else and allow these assets to be interoperable, like Zach had mentioned. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be huge opportunities and new chains coming up all the time.
Yeah, I second and third everything both these guys just said. They hit some really highlights and good points. Yeah, I mean, the future is going to be continue to innovate and evolve, and I think everyone here is going to good job identifying that, and like Zach said, being chain agnostic, etc., and building things like David said that like appeal to the users and what's important to them. So I mean, those are the right approaches for sure.
One last question on the primary marketplace, and again, coming from the licensing community, where we have a lot of people joining us today, what will the marketplace handle themselves from a logistics, marketing, sales, pricing, all that type of stuff? And what are they going to expect from the brand owner, from way support or other means? Do we have any insight of this? Again, fast changing model, changing today versus yesterday. But what can the brand owner expect?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to unpack that one for a second there too. Yeah, I mean, at this stage, I think it's actually very important to have a very kind of white glove approach with the brands and the licensors, just at this kind of phase and stage of it. The idea of a more do-it-yourself type of marketplace, I think there's benefit to that, but there's also drawbacks, and pricing and long-term strategy and all those things are actually very important to brand owners. And I'll pause there.
I really agree a lot with what Gary is saying. Our approach to it is, the model is that we want to help them, right? We're the white label solution for this. We want to help the brands we're working with. Our entire background on the tech side and crypto side is transaction, right? How to deal with AML KYC in the crypto world, how to have a smooth process. Like that was our bread and butter from a tech perspective. So actually when a user is going to go to one of our white label solutions, they won't even know that it's crypto there. It's all going to be with credit card or fiat currency. If a user wants to use crypto, they can, because obviously this is a crypto market. But for us, we want to make it as easy as possible for the brand owners that they don't have to deal with this, because today the market is a lot different than it likely will be in the future. So today, it's very hard for them to manage things that are built on top of crypto. And what happens if a crypto transaction comes in, they have a wallet? Well, then how do they hedge that currency risk, right? And this is a question I ask some of the new developers that have, are coming out with new companies too. It's like, now there's going to be tons of transactions. How are you thinking about liquidity and market making and hedging your deltas and hedging your exchange risk? Like, how are you hedging this risk, right? So part of our systems too, beyond just dealing with transaction, AML, KYC, fraud, all these things that our team has done at Kraken and Circle and Poloniex and Cumberland, all these big crypto exchanges and trading firms. We're also thinking about liquidity and hedging a lot of this risk. And these are things that typical developers aren't necessarily thinking of, and brand owners aren't thinking of. And we don't want to complicate it even more. Crypto's complicated enough. So we're trying to really have a white glove service. And over time, brands will be able to deal with these things because the technology will evolve. But for now, as Gary said, it has to really be a white glove type situation.
Yeah, and sorry, I'll just respond to that. Sorry, David, give me 1 second here. And we think about that not just like this phase, and we're kind of thinking about what that means in the next phase as well. I mean, we've already we built an entire kind of a system that helps brands basically create a self-fulfilling like marketplace where they can access and get into creating digital merchandise in itself. So that idea of kind of the more do-it-yourself that we're talking about is being prepared for, and things will kind of slide down that scale over time. Exactly, right? As people become more familiar and the more tools are in place, whether by us or other people that are providing it, then it kind of opens up that avenue. Sorry, David, over to you.
Yeah, so our approach is pretty much business to consumer directly for brand owners. Obviously, 3-4 years ago, most brands doesn't know how to do blockchain, how to mint this. We got studio, we got contractors designing the AI experience, the digital models, and the secondary market. So we are very end to end. So basically, we help brands, and we like to see us as one of the premium platforms where all the brands come on, and we help navigate through the marketing, the minting, the issuance. We give the advice what the primary retail price is and the mintage of how many we do. We're not, you know, in the marketplace, what we're going for is pretty much a huge mass market. We don't focus on just let's get the highest price, $65 or $69 million for a piece of artwork. What we do is we allow brands to go out and market, you know, the DeLorean. We did 87,500 of these DeLoreans sold in 3 hours. And John DeLorean, he only made 9,200 of this car. So it gives you an example how large in the scale of the market it is today. And we really help the brands connect to the consumer directly and take the hassle out of everything they need to know.
Well, this is a good transition from the primary market to the secondary market. What are some of the things, you know, the questions I see popping up are, you know, does the seller need to think about the blockchain platform? Do they have to sell in the same place they bought? Do they have to worry about blockchain that's tied into is where they're selling? Or can they sell anywhere? Can somebody kind of give us a quick dive or a quick overview of the secondary market today?
Sure, I'll dive into this.
Go ahead, Zach.
Secondary markets are different everywhere. So there are certain assets that can't leave the platform that they're minted on in the primary market. So those can only transact on one platform. There are other assets like assets that are minted via Recurrent and our branded experiences that can leave, and those can go and participate in open marketplaces on various different blockchains, whichever the user wanted to take that asset onto, they can go and participate. And so there are certain marketplaces that don't allow for, you know, an asset to come into it, right? So beyond just certain marketplaces not allowing for assets to leave, certain marketplaces say you can't come in. So that's, you know, that also depends on things like that as well too. And then something else that Recur thinks about a lot as in regard to the secondary market with the brands that we're working with is, what does liquidity look like, right? So anyone can offer, you know, a primary sale where they're selling hundreds of thousands of units. But what happens in the secondary? How do you think about liquidity, right? How do you think about having large depth of market? How do you have a great matching engine and things like that? Because these are all things that come from the trading world. So for the first time ever, instead of selling a t-shirt on eBay, right? And you're taking new types of trading into these markets, and you have to think and tackle some of these issues in a unique way. So what we do is we lean a lot on our experience being market makers and thinking about liquidity markets and accessing liquidity all throughout crypto, and think about how that industry has evolved, and we apply that to our secondary markets on our own platform. And as we view other platforms, that's kind of how we think about where all these assets will perform best, is where's the deepest liquidity, right? Where's the the most participation, and how can you help provide some of that liquidity too? So these are things that we're thinking about a lot.
So what controls would a brand owner have in the secondary market? Are there any that they can control? How does this, this ownership go, which could live forever? How does the brand owner stay connected?
Well, a lot of this actually can be programmatically put into smart contracts, Bill. So, I mean, it's the old proverbial, the analogy with smart contracts is kind of like the vending machine, right? You put something into it, and based on what it's programmed to do. It spits something out. Like that was like kind of like the first examples of what smart contracts were like years and years ago. So I'll lean on that. But yeah, I mean, you can basically encapsulate these rules along with it. So if it needs to redistribute these royalty payment systems, royalty distributions and so forth, it can. And those are some of the things that we address as well within we have an entire blockchain ecosystem SaaS platform that helps deal with like royalty remittance, working with the multiple parties and licensing and handling all that, etc. But yeah, it's a programmatic thing that we're going to see evolve into that to handle that goal.
Yeah, and that's the whole beauty of crypto, is that everything's on chain, everything can be programmatic, everything can be in the smart contract layer. And that's what we're doing with how we're handling our royalties too. Recurring royalties in the contract itself. So no matter where it goes or lives or plays in the future, the original brand owner can participate and still see it. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
hence the name, right, Zach? Recur?
Hence the name.
Recur. Yeah. Exactly. So the big question is that who is responsible for paying those royalties? Is it blockchain where it's tied to? Is it the marketplace? How does that money that was exchanged here between the seller and the buyer get back to the brand owner?
Well, it's all programmatic. It's happening in the secondary market if it's done on the smart contract level. So what happens is the total notional value traded. So let's say something sells for $100, and in the smart contract, you say there's going to be a 10% royalty to the original IP owner, then $10 automatically in that currency, right? So let's say it was ETH that it transacted, would go to a wallet, and then that would be, dispersed to the brand owner. How we handle that recurs, we manage the entire blockchain experience. Everything's happening programmatically and automatically, and then we pay out quarterly statements to the large studios that we're working with. But again, all that's happening on chain. It's the whole magic of blockchain is that we can document it.
So yes. A quick question that came in, this is kind of, you were just talking about wallet and everything is a perfect timing one. A licensor is sitting going, I don't want cryptocurrency, I want my cash. How does it go from the cryptocurrency? Who's being responsible for that exchange to get the money back to the brand owner? In some cases, who needs to disperse it to producers and artists and everything else?
Absolutely.
With what we do is at Veve, we pretty much think about mass market once again, Bill. Our approach on the secondary market is, number one, we have over 30,000 listing on our secondary market, and currently it's transacting between $200,000 to $250,000 a day. Right now, the platform doesn't collect royalties for the licensors. We have the function, and in this case, we will be responsible to be paying it out on behalf, basically on quarterly or monthly basis. A couple other things that we do need to think about is that, and we have seen transactions being peer-to-peer trading, for example. What we really see the big market for where we are, if you go to a Comic-Con, you go to an event, you have your phone out, you want to swap something with someone, you can try it. So it doesn't always involve in the secondary market with money transaction. And we have started to see things being sold on eBay. People take a screenshot of the digital collectible they bought. They take a screenshot, they transact on eBay to bypass it. You can't capture the whole spectrum of every avenue. You do your best to collect it, and some brand owners choose they don't want to participate in the secondary earning, and a lot of them do want to investigate and navigate through that. And what are and this mainly come from the artist's point of view. When you sell an artwork, how could you record earnings? And many auction house in the past have tried to set up this where a portion of the resale value profit or turnover goes to the original artist or the estate. So it really works for different type of licensors and different type of talents and property owners in this side from us.
Hey guys, we only have a couple of minutes left. So sorry, I want to circle back to kind of wrap this up because we are running out of time. We have had seismic changes in the NFT world in the last 6 weeks, never mind the last 12 months of this industry. Some of you have been in it for a number of years. Some of you have been emerging as something new, and we've seen a lot of emergence of new stuff happening. If you look at your NFT crystal ball, so to speak, what do you see happening in the marketplaces of NFT over the next 6 months or the year? Gary, do you want to get us started here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to continue to grow. I mean, at first, the conversation is about access, which is marketplace, right? Like, what are the touch points? Where do the consumers going to have access to these products? And there's going to be lots and lots of different marketplaces. Some of them will be niche and very focused on certain types of genre categories or different types of offerings. And some will be more like aggregator type of offerings. And just like we kind of saw like the .com era and kind of the internet and like, e-commerce and all those types of things, you're going to have just more and more and more, and it's going to continue to change and evolve. And there's no really going to be one player takes all, I would imagine, at least not for a while, until Amazon steps into the place. But I mean, yeah. So, yeah.
David?
Yeah, I mean, I read reports out there. There's about 850,000, 900,000 NFT collectors out there. And I do see in the next 60, 90 days, as, application like ours, direct to consumers, become very easy to download and use, this number will double. And we have seen our users are almost doubling every month in transactions as well. We have a huge fast of 3-year worth of content coming out. So as you have more and more quality products, you see great experience. The mass market adoption basically will be, coming in. So there will be, and I do have to admit, there's a lot of speculators. A lot of things are being paid way over price or way over value. There will be a correction, but ultimately, if you have a great product, great experience, and a good roadmap, and as a brand owner, how to capture that experience with your audience, you're going to be in this space for a long time.
Great. And Zach, we have about a minute left. Do you want to give us your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think things are constantly changing and evolving. I mean, I work out now on a Peloton and I do panels on a Zoom, right? So things are constantly changing. And I think NFTs are a new extension of what technology means and how brands will be able to communicate with their fans and their audiences. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing. I think today, as we look at the NFT space and as we look at marketplaces, me and my co-founder, Trevor, we talk about this all the time. It looks like it's 2010 eBay. And, we're here and, all of us are working to make it more like 2021 e-commerce and to see how things can change. So I think a lot of new talent is going to come to the ecosystem now that there's all this excitement and capital coming in, a lot of it more innovation. And I think most importantly, as David touched on, there, of course, is a ton of speculation, but we're going to look right through it. And the brands are going to get involved and finally have a new way to allow their fans to engage with their content.
Great. Hey, I'd like to thank Zach, Gary, and David for joining us today for the NFT Digital Arcade panel. We now actually have a short break in our summit. We'll return at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time for our third panel, which is the NFT and Digital Display Case, moderated by my colleague, Marty Brockstein. Thank you for your time today and enjoy the rest of the summit, everyone.
Yo, alright. So, I mean, nothing, no gems dropped. David ain't get to whip out the Pokeball, throw it at the end there. They ended too abruptly. He was pulling it out. Like, y'all ain't see his arm went slightly like that. The Pokeball was down there, but they cut the stream off, man. But yo, yeah, my man's like they ain't even let him talk, bruh. They ain't even let him talk. I think David too nice. So we gotta see Dan. What Dan gotta come in here and body. Dan gotta come here and body shit. Cause they like, nah, they ain't finna do my mans like that. Dan finna come here and you shut up. We talking about Veve. And then yeah, that's how I gotta go at this point. He can't let nobody talk. Like he gotta go and get revenge. He gotta get his get back for what they just did to David. That's what's gotta happen at this point. How they gonna do my mans like that? But I did like hearing David talk about the longevity and how there's gonna be a correction coming. And I mean, we're used to corrections and stuff like that in crypto and stocks, and it's good to hear him talk about the correction coming within when it comes to NFTs, because there is going to be a correction. You got stuff listed for like 20, 30,000 already. It's like, come on now, relax. It's not, you're trying to push us a few years ahead than we actually are. So yeah, there is going to be a correction, which means that some of these things that's priced very high right now, we could see them drop back down and become in a little bit more affordable. So we could probably potentially get some deals on some of the NFTs that we want. Yeah, Dan finna come through. He finna come through clapping. What is this? Join webinar. When is this gonna be ready? Alright, so now we just gotta wait for Dan. This session will begin shortly. We just gonna wait for Dan. See Dan come through. Show him what's up. Do you think they'll release very cheap? Ecomi NFT less than $5. Less than $5. I don't know. Because they're premium. They have all premium. I think we could see potentially like some $10 packs or something, $10 mystery drops and stuff. Like, I think we can see something like that. I don't know if they're gonna actually come through with the like something like $5, but maybe potentially. It depends on. I don't know how they're going to do it, because when I think of pack openings or packs and stuff like that, I think about just around the clock, just you can open packs all day, every day. But then again, if you're opening packs all day, you're going to have a lot of unvaluable things coming in those packs. So I don't know how they would deal with that problem. But if they limit the pack openings, if they limit the packs to where you, like NBA Top Shot does, it's only going to be a certain amount of packs, and then all the packs are gone. It's like, so I'm interested to see how they address packs, how they go about it, because I want to see some around the clock action where it is affordable and people can just roll. Like when Pokemon comes out, it's so many Pokemon. I want to see them just rolling Pokemon like all day, every day, trying to get them all. Like that's what I want to see. That bottom left guy was a salesman. You can tell he was in sales. He was pumped up. He was energetic. David just chilling like, I'm going to let the product do the talking. Like, that's the difference. When you got to do all the talking, you ain't got a product that can do the talking for you. Like, you got to explain your product way too much. That's the issue. Your product got to be idiot proof. If David whip out the Veve app, everybody there would have understood what was going on. That dude whipping out Recur, I Googled Recur and I still didn't know what the hell it was, what was going on with it, what is it doing. Like, I don't know nothing about Recur even after Googling and reading it. It's like, what is Recur? So it's like, that's the difference. That's the difference between a good product and another product. So yeah, like Recur just talked for all that time and we still don't know nothing about Recur. Like, what is Recur? Well, I still don't know. Like, how do you do the most talk? And that's how you know your product's not that great. How do you do the most talking and no one knows what you do? It's weird. Yeah, I couldn't find a Recur site at first either. And then when I found it, it was trash. It's like, nah, that's not where we at, Chief. Recur has 10 years of NFT content. And I bet you they ain't getting nowhere near Veve. That's the thing. It's very, very easy to have a bunch of content when you allow anything to be there. Like, let's talk about the content that's actually valuable from the most profitable IPs in the world. That's Veve. Like, that's like YouTube. Anybody can upload a video to YouTube, technically. That does not mean it's going to necessarily be a valuable video. It could be whatever. Like, you can just upload videos. So, yeah, YouTube got the most content. But when it comes down to the most valuable content, if you're trying to learn something important, you could probably go on some site where you got to pay for it, and you can get much more value out of that because they only put valuable stuff on there because people are paying. So it's like, I mean, you can have a lot of something, and the lot that you have ain't valuable. What is CZ? I was doing the same thing. What the heck is recur? Like, no one knows what recur is. You would think after talking about something for like 30 plus minutes, you would say it gives people some sort of idea what the hell it is, but nope. Not at all. Binance tweet. I don't follow Binance. I don't follow many people. I don't use Twitter, to be honest. I just started using Twitter. After listening to a couple different teams presenting NFTs today, I realized I didn't realize how big the NFT market will truly be. Damn. Okay. I think the speed of increase in my corresponds to the speed increase in Binance. Damn, he got 1 million followers already? Okay. Oh, this is a sign. Bro, Ecomi's coming. Ecomi's coming. That tweet is definitely a sign.
Generate income instead of minting more lands.
You want to know what's crazy? You want to know how strong the Veve community is? Binance posted a post with 3 million followers on their page, and it has 886 people in there. We almost had 800 people in here in the Veve community. On this channel especially, it's very much smaller. So that just shows you how strong the Veve community is, man. Like that should show you right there. 3 million people, and they got 800 people in here, as opposed to what we got, like 3,000, and yeah, we had almost the exact same. It's crazy. He came to watch the Veve panel. Yep. He started correction on the other NFC platforms. Nah, he definitely it definitely needs to be a correction on the Veve's platform as well. It's going to be an overall correction, but it's not going to be as harsh as some of the other platforms, I feel like. Because what you got to understand about Veve is there has to be standards. There has to be standards. There has to be pricing that makes sense. It has to be a demand, and we have to know where that demand is. Like, how much is someone willing to pay for this, and how much are multiple people willing to pay? Because one millionaire can come up and buy something for $20,000 and not really care about it, but no one else might buy that same thing. The millionaire might have did it because he has the money to waste, but it's not selling like that. You know something is at a good price point when people are buying it, consistently buying it. So, I think right now when it comes to Veve, everybody's just pricing whatever they want to price, and there's no clear price point for a lot of these products. They're just, people just put them up there. So there's going to be a correction for sure. What time is Dan on? In 4 minutes. Dan comes on in 4 minutes. You don't use Twitter? No, I don't use Twitter too much. I be on now. I use it a lot more now, but I just started using Twitter like within the last couple of weeks. Now I use Twitter way more than I like. I've had my Twitter account for years. I just started using it these last 2 weeks though. Like I think before I started tweeting about Veve and Ecomi, my last tweet was like from like 2019 maybe. What's the Twitter handle of the Binance CEO? I just typed in Binance and CZ. Like, it started with CZ. And he comes up as soon as you type in Binance. Anything good come out from this meeting? Not yet. I'm interested in seeing what Dan has to say. Dan is the more well-spoken one. He speaks well. Yeah. I think David seems more laid back, shy, kind of chill. So, like, they wasn't really letting him talk and he wasn't going to do nothing about it. I don't see those type of problems happening with Dan. I feel like Dan can demand his respect. So, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see everything that y'all send to me, though. Well, most of it. Lately, my feed been so blew up. I got tagged in this huge post that ended up going viral. So, I'm getting thousands of notifications all the time. Because I already get a high amount of notifications. And then getting tagged in that just really boosted my notifications. So, yeah, it's hard for me to see some stuff on Twitter right now. It's real hot for me on Twitter. But I do see a lot of what gets tweeted at me. So, I've been checking out a lot of the stuff y'all wanted me to look at. Yeah, like, a lot of these, you got to think about, like, look at how many different Pokemon projects you have coming out for the blockchain. Well, all these scam projects, like, that don't have Pokemon's approval, that don't really, like, it's so many projects coming out, fan-made projects that's not going to last because people don't understand the law. Like, people thought that just because something was on the blockchain, the law, like, it's exempt from the law. Like, no, these companies are going to come after them. This is just new, so people can get away with doing scammy and scummy things right now. But the longer that it goes on, like, Veve is the clear king right now because it has approval for all this stuff that it has coming. Like, the licenses are everything. Because let's be honest, you can find different developers to make a really, really good platform. You can have different developers make a cool platform. Yeah, you're behind on the development, but you get enough developers together, they could do that. What they can't do is have the connections that Al Khan has and get all these licenses cleared and do the things that Veve is doing. That's the value in Veve. The value is in the IPs and the way that they can manipulate the IPs and bring value. Everybody muted? Dan! Okay.
Marty?
Am I in? Okay.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. Sorry for the bit of a halting start. I'm Marty Brockstein from Licensing International, and I'm pleased to be moderating the third panel of the day. This idea of, we've been talking about brands, we've been talking about licensees, and talking a bit about the consumer, and one of the things that came up earlier today was this whole notion of community. What some of the platforms are trying to build is community among the those with affinity for a particular area. And one of the ways that community is shown is through display. Back in many years ago, when I was covering the technology business as a journalist, there was a lot of mention made of Bill Gates building a mansion in Seattle. And one of the things that everybody was commenting on was he was going to have this collection of high-def displays so he could show a rotating collection of his art. That it would all be on these, screens in nice frames and all that, and that's the way he would be showing off his art. Well, we're into a new age where people buying NFTs, collecting NFTs. How do they show it off? That's one of the things about collectors. They often like to show it off, particularly if they're not collecting for investment, but they're collecting for affinity. So we're going to start this panel off. The presenters, I've asked each of the presenters to give a little bit of a presentation as to why they're here and what role they're playing in this NFT marketplace. First will be Patrick Ashworth, founder and CEO of Visio Art. Next will be Preston Wu, who's Chief Strategy Officer of Taffy. Third will be Dan Crothers, COO of Ecomi. And fourth will be Tyler Lewison, General Manager of Champion Teamwear at Hanes Brands. And I should say that, everybody misses physical conferences and stuff like that. Here we get the benefit of being a virtual conference because we're coming to you from Switzerland, from New Zealand, from Seattle, and from Manhattan, Kansas, as Tyler is fond of saying. So Patrick, why don't you take us away and start us off?
Great. Thank you very much, Marty. I'm just going to put up a couple of slides here. Just give me a second. So, Marty, great to be on the panel today and really happy to share Visio Art and how we fit in the NFT ecosystem. Our vision has been really to turn people's TV into an art gallery. So thank you to Bill Gates 20 odd years ago. Now I think it's possible with all the smart technology that's around us with smart TVs, dongles, smartphones. And one of our missions has been to make art available and affordable to everybody. So how can we display NFT artworks today? So you've got art that can easily be displayed on local devices. It's either through a dongle, through an AirPlay, through smart TV app, or through a customized digital art frame, the Samsung high-end TV or mural. These are all local within somebody's environment. What we want to do is make art available to everybody. So we've created Visio Art, that is a sophisticated digital art platform that allows you to access a large catalog of digital art, but it's possible to get the art through many different smart TVs, through different internet connected dongles. So it's really about a reach of about 90% of the population. So Visio Art, a game changer in the art world. It's very exciting with what's happening in the NFT space because we're about to launch a free version where people will be able to display, bid, and trade NFT artworks. And then they can take out a premium version, which holds the whole catalog of art, including classic, contemporary art, as well as museum art. And we also offer a lot of brand art. So we've done a lot of deals with licensing partners. So it's great to see the boom in the NFT world. It's a new asset class that's been created with a new type of investor and collector. And it's quite impressive, the revenue buildup and significant funding rounds that have happened. And Visio Art is a great complement to these marketplaces because we're providing the visibility to these artworks. So really, Visio Art is the difference. There's a lot of art from Artist Network, from brand partners, from image banks. They can be uploaded onto the platform, and then they can be bidded and traded on the different marketplaces. So in order to build value, what is important is, of course, visibility, and that is what Visio Art is offering. And it's clear uniqueness, scarcity, artist recognition, but visibility of the NFT artworks, the collectors, the art collections is very important. So really looking forward to the panel and the discussion that we're going to be following.
Great, thanks. So, Preston, go ahead.
Sure, thanks for that, Patrick. I'll share a couple slides as well. So Taffy, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Taffy. Really excited to be here as well. Thank you for that introduction, Marty. Taffy, we're an avatar company, and we believe that as people spend more of their time increasingly virtually, that the digital representation and your digital identity is merging with the physical one and is becoming just as important, if not in some cases more important. Our vision at Taffy is to democratize the creation and monetization of avatars and avatar content. The interesting thing about us too is we are horizontal across all the virtual worlds that people interact in. So in the mobile space, gaming, VR, AR, social media, and what we're so excited to talk about today is in the NFT space. What we do is we enable the creation, we have content and the monetization. We're agnostic towards the various channels and the way people are interacting virtually. We recently are doing a lot of things in NFTs. That's a lot of our brand partners, our artists, and the creator community is super excited about. But just as a very high level, we have best-in-class tech to create. We have software, we have SDKs that's cross-platform, both cross-platform software-wise and cross-platform hardware-wise. We have a huge library of content. We also create content as a service for our partners, and we're partnered with premium brands like Tyler's brand here from Champion. So I'll mention a few things about Champion and get some good feedback from Tyler, I think. And on the marketplace side, we have our own marketplace called Daz 3D, which is direct to consumer, one of the most downloaded and active 3D marketplaces out there. And we also sell on third-party asset stores and marketplaces for the big game engines. And we also do NFTs. I'll talk about just two quick examples. We provide the avatar content for Samsung devices, their augmented reality emoji system, where you take a picture of yourself, you create an avatar of yourself. We actually provide the digital apparel, and you'll see right here, there's someone wearing a Champion sweatshirt. There's another one of our partners, Warner Brothers. You can put on a Batman t-shirt. And so Taffy provides the digital content for that digital apparel, shirts, shoes, hats, different types of clothing. And since we launched that channel at the end of last year, Samsung's had over 100 million try-ons of that AR emoji content. So this is a pretty big deal, I think, for brands and some of our other partners. Another one of the digital outputs that we launched on very recently is Roblox. I think the audience all knows what Roblox is. It's one of the most immersive experiences out there. If you have a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old, they're probably playing a ton of Roblox games out there. So this is just another example of one of our digital outputs. And finally, NFTs. I put a couple examples here that were first to NFT. So Champion is one of our very good partners. We love working with Champion, very innovative. They were the first apparel company to launch NFTs, and we at Taffy enabled that. Another one that we're pretty proud of is our partnership with Shudu, which is the first completely digital supermodel. And we launched NFTs with her and her company. And this was for proceeds going to Black Girls Code. So this is something we're pretty proud of. And finally, this is the last slide, and we'll get to the panel I'm super excited about. We view NFTs as having 3 stages in the life cycle. The first one is the novelty, in that it's a hype, it's almost like a land grab type of mindset. The second is a flight to quality, where curated content, authentic storytelling, community, as Marty mentioned, of the authentic followers of a brand or an artist or creator. And finally, where we play in at Taffy is utility. Is there a function? Does it unlock a physical experience or a digital experience that otherwise would not be possible? That's where Taffy shines the brightest. So with that, happy to answer questions and join the panel. And I'll stop sharing right now.
Okay. And now we'll hear from Dan Crothers.
Yes.
Unmute
Thank
yourself.
you. I'm unmuted now? Yep.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here alongside such an esteemed company. So yeah, Veve is basically an app-based marketplace for digital collectibles, or AKA NFTs. And really our mission is to bring that physical world experience that fans already know and love, and bring that into a digital environment. So just some quick facts about the company quickly. So basically we've been around for a long time. We started in this digital collectible space way back in 2017. And we've created Veve, which is an end-to-end digital collectible ecosystem. And one of the things that's important for us is that, this is a product that is designed by collectors for collectors. So while we have a lot of the tech in the background, it is very much user-friendly and easy to use on the front end. And as a couple of the other panelists have touched on, this really is creating a new type of digital asset class for IP owners to leverage and fans to really enjoy. As I mentioned, we use blockchain for all of our authenticity and scarcity. And really, our mission is to create a sustainable digital collectible industry. We all kind of know we're going through a bit of an NFT bubble now. But 1 or 2 years ago when we got into this, nobody really knew what an NFT was. Throughout the past couple of years, we've managed to sign up over 100 different brands, which we'll be rolling out over the coming years. I'd just like to touch on a couple of our key team members. David Yu, crazy collector, basically our CEO. Myself, I'm very, very much into the tech side. And a lot of people from the licensing world in the audience may know of Alfred Kahn, who's in the Hall of Fame of licensing. Now, for us, really, it's not about the technology, and we want to make sure this product is very easy. So really what we've tried to do is recreate the physical experience in the digital world. And we've achieved that by dividing the app up into a few main sections. Number one, the user has the store where they can browse all our different brands and purchase collectibles. Users then have their own virtual showrooms, whether they're VR or augmented reality. They can set them up, they can view their collectibles in augmented reality. We have a social feed. Of course, Marty, as we touched on earlier, collecting is all about community. So the feed is kind of the heart of Veve. Again, no collectible industry is running properly unless there's a secondary market. So again, we provide a very, very easy way for our users to buy, sell, and trade their collectibles amongst each other. And then, from the account, a user can manage all of their collection, really carry their collection in their pocket at all times. So what is a Veve digital collectible? So number one, it is a high quality 3D model or 2D asset. They all come out in limited edition. They can be static or animated. They can be fully interactive. In fact, we have like a drivable DeLorean. They can be upgraded, customized, viewed in VR and AR, secured with blockchain. And then for those licensors who want it, they can be interoperable NFTs, or which means they can be transferred between various marketplaces. Just to finish up, so Veve launched in January 2021. Since then, we've secured over 250,000 users. We've had some record drops. We did one, which was the DeLorean Time Machine, which we sold 87,000 editions in 3 hours. And in the past couple of months that we've been open, we've sold over 350,000 editions. In addition, we're ranking between number 3 and 4 in the most popular, in the top grossing apps in the entertainment space. And for me, this is one of the most important things about the app, is that we are getting massive social engagement with our augmented reality, with our virtual reality features. There is just so much amazing content coming out, which is both great for us, great for the collectors, and also great for the brands getting exposure across social. So yep, thank you guys for listening to that, and I'm really looking forward to this panel. I think the display of NFTs is really the next step.
Mm-hmm. Great, Tyler.
All right, Sorry, everybody, I don't have slides for you, and I'll be brief. Hopefully you've heard of Champion. We're 101 now, which is pretty exciting. And as we think about, the future state, our next 100 years, we as a brand, we really value being authentic, being innovative, being inclusive. And we see this convergence of the physical and the digital spaces coming together, right? And so ultimately, we want to engage our consumers where they're at, and more consumers are engaging in this digital world. And so, how do we, just be part of the conversation and engage folks? And so, we think about the digital space, not just from an NFT perspective, but, we started putting a lot of effort into gaming not that long ago. And how do you engage in the gaming space? How do you engage in a space like Samsung's AR emoji store is a great example. And NFTs is just another one of those opportunities. This panel is about display, and one of the things that I think is interesting and a question that we ponder is how do consumers want to engage with this digital item back in the real world? So I think one of our roles could be to partner with creators to help bring that digital art asset to real life by putting it on a hoodie, for instance, and making that part of whatever gets sold as an NFT. And so we're just really excited about this opportunity in this moment in time. The analogy that I like to make is, imagine if baseball cards didn't exist and then all of a sudden they were invented this year, and every artist that's getting a card, every piece of IP that's getting a card, this is their rookie card, right? What is that going to be worth 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now? And so it's a really, really exciting time. And so just excited to be on this panel and answer your questions.
Great. Tyler, actually, let me follow up on something, on what you said, and we saw during Preston's presentation, the 4 examples of what you've done there. What were you trying to achieve by getting into NFTs? What do you think it was going to say about the brand? How did you approach this as creating, because Champion is not generally in the collectibles market. So what were you trying to achieve on behalf of the brand, and what kind of community were you hoping to create?
Yeah, that's a great question, Marty. So we are an innovative brand that thinks about testing and learning. And so that was the approach that we took. I would argue we are in the collectible space in that we do a lot of collaborations, and a lot of those pieces, are very limited. And so then folks really covet those, especially in the secondary market. And part of that speaks to, our culture curator muse, right? This person that we want to connect with as a consumer, and this person that's an inspiration to other consumers. Specifically with the NFT piece, one of the things that I think is important is sometimes speed to market matters to establish yourself as a thought leader in the space. And so one of the things we asked ourselves is, what do we want to test? And so we're fortunate, and I know there's probably a lot of people in the audience today asking, how do we engage in the space? We're fortunate to have a great partner in Taffy. I would highly recommend them because they made things really easy for us. And so they, within a couple of days, came up with a plan, and we were able to engage very quickly. And we wanted to test. I mean, I would call it a soft launch, what we did, but we wanted to test, how do we storytell around our spring 21 line in the digital space. So it wasn't just about NFTs. We actually also released a bunch of pieces in our Samsung AR emoji store. And that was more of the headline. It's like, hey, here's this next round of product that's coming out to all these, users globally. And that really helped amplify the spring collection that we were bringing to market, available on champion.com and at our retailer partners. And so we just asked the question, like, how do we continue to amplify that story? And testing NFTs seemed like a good way to further storytell. And so we asked ourselves, what are the different types of pieces? We did try to communicate to our customers through our social channels, and one of the lessons learned is there's a lot of education that's required. If you're a brand and you currently have this consumer base, to educate them on, you can't get it on your current website. You got to go to the secondary market. You've got to get a wallet. you've got to get, Ethereum. You have to do these certain things in order to convert. That's not an easy story to tell in a social post, right? So, but we also believe that this is going to become a very commonplace and widespread adoption will occur over time, right? So the point isn't to necessarily be successful at storytelling there. Then there's this other community of people that are already collectors, people that know what an NFT is. They know I can go on Webull or OpenSea or wherever and get these things, and they have wallets. And so it was also to try to say, how do you communicate and talk to some of those folks, and just learn along the process. And so, and thankfully we had a good guide, and still have a good guide with Taffy holding their hand along the way.
Well, I would just add one more thing, and I'll be brief. We loved working with Champion, and one of the things we loved is they do have a strong following as a brand, an authentic community. And one of the lessons learned was we do have to make it, it's a different, there was overlapping, as Tyler mentioned, but there's also additional community that was new to the NFT space, and we had to provide some education on how to purchase and make it as simple as possible so that they could just swipe a credit card. The second thing I would say that was super interesting was the aspect of combining, and for the panel today, was the digital purchase, but also the physical display, which I think plays well into Patrick and Daniel's space, that the ones that did the best, that sold out the fastest, the whole collection sold out, but the ones that sold the quickest were the ones where there was one-of-one unique collectible physical reverse weave hoodies, for example, that was custom made for the individual. And so they could display that NFT and showcase it, that all the reasons why people collect and own for status, for enjoyment, for display purposes, that actually resonated very well too. So I just wanted to make that point, and I think that's a good lead into the physical display that Patrick and Daniel will talk about.
Mm-hmm. Over time, over decades, as new technologies have come in, they've gone through a phase where there were 5 different standards out there, 6 different standards out there, until the industry coalesced around a single standard that was able to create a mass market. It happened in video. You had the beta VHS wars. You've had it over various video standards along the way. Are we headed, we're hearing about all the different marketplaces and all the technologies. Are we headed at some point toward a standardization? What does this look like in the future? What's your best guess, and what implications does it have for the businesses that you're building now?
I actually believe that there will continue to be a lot of different formats in this space. But one of the major trends we're starting to see now is really interoperability. And that's the ability to transfer one asset from another to another, either chain or another platform. For example, you might have an item that's in, say, Nifty Gateway or an our platform that you can then send into a game, or you can send into one of the games like Roblox. Mm-hmm. And I think when selecting a partner in this kind of space, really interoperability should be one of the questions that you really are asking to ensure you're not sort of isolating yourself within one particular chain.
Mm-hmm. And Marty, I'll jump in because for our vision is really the reach, because the issue is there's a lot of smart TV manufacturers out there. There's a lot of people who still have TVs that are not smart, so they're connected to the internet through a dongle, whether it's Fire TV Stick, Apple TV. So one of our objectives with this platform is reach, and so all smart TVs were available on the app stores or available through dongles, and this is the key. The other is we want to offer tens of thousands of high quality images. So the quality is important, because today if somebody's looking, for example, the Beeple sale, he was looking at a website when they made the purchase. you know, if he had projected that or pushed that onto a 70-inch screen, it would have been pixelized. We want to offer a very high quality image for people to actually be able to view, experience, feel in their homes before they actually make the purchase. And then post-purchase, instead of them just sitting in a wallet and being lost, we want them to also have the possibility to say, yes, we want to be on the VisuArt platform in order to get visibility so that more and more people can have them in their homes and their friends can display those NFT artworks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to build off of what Patrick and Daniel said, the current state and the future state, those are very different. The current state, as Patrick said, a lot of people today, a lot of the consumers of our NFTs that we minted are just keeping it in their meta wallets, which are interoperable with the various NFT marketplaces. Not the champion ones with the special unlockables, but a lot of the other ones. And so I think that where our Taffy's position is that wherever people are spending time, whether it's virtually in the gaming world, as Daniel mentioned, or physically in their home, that's where you're going to start seeing the displays. I mean, the communities and the followers that matter to people, if you're in the gaming community and you're a preteen and you're on Roblox, you'll want to be showing your community that you have these NFTs. If you are in home and you're entertaining, post-COVID, of course, you're going to be wanting to display your artwork on the digital displays. And actually, just as a side note, you're seeing digital frames sell more in the retail, in the physical world. And you're seeing people, actually, that's a good example, providing digital frames as part of the NFT purchases. So our position at Taffy, we're agnostic wherever people are spending their time, whatever communities that matter to them that they want to showcase, whether it's for status or for secondary marketplace investment speculation you mentioned at the beginning, Marty, that's where they're going to be displaying it.
Mm-hmm. You know, when we talk about the investment marketplace and the headlines in the general press, forget about the business press, but the headlines are about the $200,000 LeBron James clip. They're about Jack Dorsey's $2.3 million tweet, et cetera, and people and all that. Is there a disconnect between the real business that's going on a day-to-day basis on a platform like Veve or any of the other platforms and the cost of entry to somebody who's interested in NFTs and this publicity that's out there? Is that creating a sort of psychic disconnect in the marketplace when we're trying, when you're all trying to build a business?
I think personally right now there is a bit of a disconnect. We've been in the physical collectible world for a very long time, and the price points in the physical world now, especially in the sports area, are set at a standard price. But what we're seeing in the digital world are just very, very inflated. Whether it's going to stay like that is, we're going to have to see post bubble. But that's kind of one of the reasons from our perspective. I mentioned in our presentation that we're about creating a sustainable collectible industry. Where our items are priced at what people would normally pay in the physical world for a physical statue, and I think that's a very important step to understand that if you're putting items out there for millions of dollars, at the end of the day, a lot of what collectors want is they want their favorite brands, and for those collectors who are in it for investment, they want that upside. And when you're paying, huge amounts of money for at the very first point of sale, that could end up with a bit of negative sentiment if that doesn't continue to rise, which would be very difficult.
Mm. I would say,
from our perspective. Okay, sorry, Preston. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. So from our perspective, we want to build a platform for up and coming artists. So really, our mission since the beginning was to make art affordable and available to everybody. And so it's clear you're seeing a lot of these inflated prices, but we as a business really want to try and make VisuArt open to everybody.
Mm. And I would just say that's the beauty of, and it might sound dated, the beauty of the internet or the beauty of digital is that it should democratize art for every price point. So there are the Beeples that sell for millions of dollars, but as we see in our digital platforms, for example, the Samsung AR emoji, you can buy a virtual champion hoodie for a single-digit dollars, and so we view and we see that that price point. Or on Roblox, some of the fastest-selling items, they're like 100 Robux, which is about $1. And so we have large volumes. You have that access and reach of the internet of the digital world, and for a lower price point. One of the things that's been constraining price points for NFTs is there are high friction costs. Tyler mentioned you have to get a wallet, you have to purchase Ethereum, and then there's actually transaction costs that sometimes are hard to predict, called gas fees, that can range anywhere from $50 to a couple $100 that you just don't know when you're purchasing that those come into play. And so that has been, even if you price things for basically free, like Taco Bell did as part of their NFT drop, it makes it difficult for people to purchase if they want to pay $5, but they don't know if the gas fee is going to be $100 at that transaction point. We do have some inside baseball knowledge, because Taffy does talk to all the marketplaces, all the third-party marketplaces, that this is something that's being worked on, and we have a lot of confidence that those transaction fees will come down significantly in the most popular marketplaces.
Dan mentioned creating a sustainable marketplace, and we've actually there are 3 separate questions on my screen. And by the way, I've been looking to the side because I have the questions that are coming in. It's not because I'm, as Maura said, not because I'm checking my email. A couple people have asked about sustainability. For example, what about environmental sustainability? Is the energy usage a concern for everybody in how this marketplace is perceived of and as it develops? Anybody want to?
Yeah, I'll answer that, because that was one of the things that we want to try to understand better. I mean, clearly, there's this broad use of energy that goes along with the blockchain, right? And one of the things we learned about was the difference between show of proof of work and proof of show. And so, and I think what Preston's alluding to is there's several marketplaces that can do things like not use energy until the item is sold and then it gets minted, or run kind of parallel to the blockchain so you don't actually use the same amount of energy. I'm not an expert in this, but as I understand it, proof of work is all these computers are trying to solve the same math problem to earn cryptocurrency as the reward for validating the ledger, which is the blockchain. The other side of it is to say, we're not going to ask everyone to do that. We're going to select people to do that. And if you get it correct, then you get the reward. And that significantly cuts down the energy usage. So there's a lot of people putting effort and energy into answering the sustainability part of it and say, how do we reduce it? And I think a lot of the artists and creators are definitely concerned about this issue as well. So I think that NFTs and bringing in artists actually into this space is going to help accelerate finding better sustainable solutions in the future. But it is something to be mindful of, certainly, as you engage in the space.
Okay. Anybody else want to attack that one?
Yeah, and just to touch on that, it also can come down to the blockchain provider that you choose. I guess the most popular one really now is Ethereum. Any kind of ERC-721 NFTs. That is ultimately has the highest cost to the environment and also highest cost in the fees right now. But there are, as Preston touched on, there are many solutions being developed right now, such as layer 2 solutions on top of Ethereum. A lot of them are gasless. They're basically 99.9% environmentally friendly. And really, I think, from my perspective, it's something that the tech community is going to evolve over this year, and we will start moving far more significantly into these more environmentally friendly chains, because that's what consumers are demanding, that's what the licensors and manufacturing are demanding, and we're really already seeing that. that move. So I think even with Ethereum, there's a few solutions coming out later this year that will really, put this sort of environmental issue to bed, hopefully.
Okay. Really good question. It's great to see brands like Champion on board with NFTs. A question for the others: what brands are all in on NFTs, and what has it taken for them to get there? What does it take? What does it take for a brand to make an impact?
So I'll just answer from Taffy's perspective. We have a lot of brand partners. I think Daniel and Patrick have a lot of brand partners as well, and obviously Champion is a brand. But what we're seeing is some of the more established brands that are like 100 years old, they just need to understand. It's an education on that front. What are NFTs? How does it impact sustainability? How does it help with my storytelling? From, I think across the board, we're getting a lot of brands, and it's not just in fashion entertainment, but also in sports and celebrities and esports and across the board. Everyone is asking about it. So we're spending a lot of time at Taffy, not only talking to our existing brand partners, but fielding a lot of questions from new brand partners. And 90% of the conversation is really in education, and trying to do it in a non-jargony way is also part of the challenge.
What don't they get?
They're just who the audience is, the logistics of it. We mentioned some of them. What happens in the secondary market? Why is it such a big deal? Just across the board, just it's kind of like 101. Like, what is an NFT even? Like, what does it stand for? I mean, there's all sorts of things that we're experiencing, and some companies are more tech forward than others.
Is that term NFT getting in the way? Should there be a better term that you all can use, that everybody can use, to make this a broader marketplace? Or are we there yet? Or
I don't think terminology. I think it's just, we're in Europe, so when we're still a little bit behind America. So when I talk to our partners and licensing agencies, some of them ask me, what does NFT stand for? So, clearly, like Preston says, there is an education point. For us as a business, we're a marketing channel for brands. So brands can push content, doesn't have to be an NFT. We're a licensing channel as well, a new way for brands to license content. And now we're an NFT for brands in order to sell, trade, and bid. So for us, we are trying to add this with our partners. Some get it, some don't. Some are more the older brands. They all hear about it. They all hear about these millions of dollars. But I always say to them, these are exceptions. We can't all expect that every NFT is going to be sold for millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
When we started, a couple of years ago, there really, like I said, the term didn't really exist. So we always refer to, what we're doing as digital collectibles. And, the discussions with us were a little bit different, because our product itself doesn't require the user to get a wallet. They don't need to hold their private key. We hold a lot of that stuff on a custodial basis for them, because, in order to break into this, I think, as Tyler mentioned earlier, there really are two audiences. For us, especially, there's collectors, and then there's crypto users. So, we approach these conversations in the sense that it's not necessarily about the tech, it's about the experience and making sure the users can really, make the most of this new space without those barriers.
Okay. Here's a really great question. What does it cost a brand to get into this? And overall, what kind of ROI should they be imagining? What's the ROI on diving in here?
So I'll answer from Taffy's perspective. It depends on what the goal is, right? If the goal is promotion, the way that Taco Bell did it, the ROI is on marketing value. If some from our community, they are artists and creators, and they have something that will speak very authentically to their existing audience, then that's a financial return. But I would just say it depends on how you're defining ROI, and it depends on what your goal is. And I would say that if you're in it just for a pure kind of cash grab, we don't see those those are not ones that we're taking at Taffy. We're wanting to make sure it's an authentic experience.
Mm-hmm. Tyler, how were you looking at this when you got into it?
Yeah, again, for us, we're thinking about the entire digital space, right? So this is one aspect of it. And the objective is to engage the consumer where the consumer's at, right? And so that's priceless, and that drives real world physical item sales, more than anything. And that's what our primary objective is. When I think about NFTs specifically, and this is just my personal opinion, I mean, I think that a year from now, you're going to get into an Uber and your driver's going to ask you what NFTs you own. And so right now we're at the beginning of something that's going to be just ubiquitous. And so I would encourage brands to spend time doing research and learning and listen to Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast and the Nifty Show and other things just to try to understand the space, because it's not going away. I mean, there's certainly a bubble aspect to it. There's hype. It's kind of like Bitcoin when it was at $500, went to 5,000, came back down. Where is it now, right? I think in a lot of ways, like, it's such an incredible technology that empowers so many people. You got to solve the environmental side of it for sure. But you get through that hurdle and what it does and what it enables, the applications for NFTs are just endless, and it's really exciting. So.
Okay, one last question for each of you, and I'll ask you to keep it to about 20 to 30 seconds each. What are your big questions about the next year and how this marketplace develops from your own personal perspective? Patrick, why don't you go first?
From our perspective, we want to work with more and more brands, bigger and bigger brands. We want to work with museums. And like I said at the beginning, we really want to get up and coming artists onto the platform. And really for them, it's a new revenue stream. So we're really trying to help the art community.
Okay. Dan, what are your questions?
Really, I mean, I don't really have any questions per se, but, really, I would just encourage brands to, take a look at Veve. We are a non-technical platform that really is geared towards driving collectors and fans into the content that they want in a brand new medium.
Okay. Preston?
Sure. More of an observation. So Taffy, we've been looking at blockchain technology for several years for the utility of it, from piracy of digital content or scarcity of digital collectibles. The one observation I have is just the types of utility, the way that people are using NFTs today. I would love to see how that evolves a year from now, because we were just talking to a musician yesterday, actually, that is using it for creating a virtual world. Someone buys an NFT, they can go in the virtual world and they can go across to unlock different virtual worlds that unlock, different music tracks that drop. So to Taffy and to us and to me personally, I'm just super excited to see the different use cases beyond what we can even imagine today.
Great. Tyler, you get the last word.
It's a very exciting space. I think the top priority is just to understand how consumers want to engage and be engaged, and listen to the consumers. Consumers will guide you to the best way to interact with them. So
great. Thank you to our panelists for putting yourselves out there. Really appreciate it. We look forward to examining this continually as the marketplace develops. And as I can tell from the number of questions we weren't able to answer, there's a lot of interest out there and people still trying to figure it out. So thank you all very much. And I guess I'll now turn it over to Steph.
Steph.
Thanks a lot, Martin.
Who is Steph?
Thank you.
All right, there we have it, y'all. So there we have it. That was the stream. That was it. I mean, we got some huge news. The NFL PA confirmed. Marvel confirmed. Like, we got some good information, y'all. So that's gonna be dope. Video coming soon for sure. But yeah, thanks for coming through the stream, chilling with me, y'all. I definitely appreciate it. I appreciate all the donations, everybody who subscribed, everything. We got some more content coming soon here. Definitely gonna talk a little bit about what went on here. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. Definitely appreciate it. This is my first stream on the channel. We had a huge turnout. But yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all. Stay tuned for the video. Make sure y'all turn on notifications. Drop that thumbs up. And yeah, I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. We gonna probably stream again soon. I'm gonna try to stream with some other YouTubers in the community. Get that together. Get something organized where everybody can come together and just chill. But we'll see. But yeah, thanks y'all. Y'all have a good day. Y'all good rest of y'all day. Good night. Whatever time it is where y'all at. And I'm gonna catch y'all later, man. Peace out, homies.